Chapter 141. With the Black Phoenix drones scouting ahead and avoiding checkpoints, the truck stopped in a forest about a kilometer from the castle. Everyone climbed out, concealed the vehicle, rechecked their gear, and then, arms loaded, moved quietly toward the castle. Caesar and Tollroad each carried machine guns and 2 drum magazines. The others had 2 drum magazines, plus 2 extra boxes of ammunition. As they walked, William instructed, "Christmas, signal Thor. Have him and Gunnar ready to support us at any time." Understood. It took them more than 40 minutes of stopping and advancing before the 6 men, weighed down with ammo, finally approached the castle's perimeter. They launched several more Black Phoenix drones to scout the castle and its surroundings. After assessing the situation, William told Barney and the others, "I'll go in first. You guys set up an ambush on the road leading out of the castle as planned." Barney hesitated. "Boss, let Christmas and me sneak in. You, Yin Yang, Caesar, and Tollroad can ambush outside." William smiled. "Don't worry, I'll be fine. Your job won't be easy either. Sniping 100 or so soldiers coming for support won't be simple. If things get dangerous, call Thor and Gunnar for air support." Seeing they couldn't persuade him, Barney and the others acquiesced, picked up their weapons, and moved to the ambush point. Before leaving, Barney grinned and said, "Good luck, boss." If the mission had been only to eliminate Monroe and the island leader, William wouldn't have needed them. He was confident he could handle everyone inside the castle. But since Monroe and Garxa had 100 or 2 soldiers, William positioned Barney's team to ambush any reinforcements. Using his mental scan as he advanced, William silently took out a few unprofessional sentries with throwing knives and slipped into the castle. After neutralizing a handful of guards in the basement, William entered the castle's lower levels and immediately switched off the video synchronization. From his storage space, he pulled remote-controlled charges and began installing them on the main load-bearing walls in the basement. On the second basement level, he dispatched 5 or 6 more guards with throwing knives. Several rooms there were packed with white powder and stacks of cash. He had no patience for the drugs, and seeing the cash only hardened his resolve. William returned to the first basement level and found 10 200-liter gasoline drums. With his strength, moving them was effortless. He carried the drums to the entrance of the second level, tipped them over one by one, opened the lids, and let the gasoline pour down into the lower rooms. After emptying all 10 drums, he planted a remote detonator at the entrance of the second level and slipped out of the castle. 200 meters away, he climbed a thick tree, smirked, and pressed the detonator at the entrance to the second basement level. About 10 seconds later, thick smoke rose from below and a faint glow of fire appeared. A few minutes later, amid the rolling smoke, a group of soldiers burst from the castle, escorting several people, followed by servants. William watched from the tree and immediately recognized the escorted men, the island leader Garxa, Monroe, and Monroe's bald strongman, Payne. As soon as they reached the safety of the courtyard, Monroe and Garxa barked orders to put out the fire. William hid in the tree and watched them shout and scramble, amused. He had done it on purpose, so Monroe and Garxa would see their most cherished possessions go up in flames. One had poisoned the island's arable land with white powder for money. The other had colluded with him for power and even contacted Jet Frobby to sell the product. William felt no remorse, only satisfaction. He enjoyed their frantic display for a few minutes until Barney's voice warned him through the earpiece. Soldiers were leaving the main camp and heading toward the castle. Everyone who needed to get out had already fled. The few people left inside were safe to leave to fate. William caressed the detonator, smiled down at Monroe and Garxa, and pressed it gently. The basement erupted with a dull roar. The entire castle trembled as if pushed by an immense force. The structure shuddered, then collapsed with a grinding, rumbling sound. Taking advantage of the explosion and the falling debris noise, William raised his suppressed HK-416 and opened fire on Monroe and Garxa, who were lying on the ground. The suppressed rifle gave off a sharp, muted whine as rounds found their marks. Blood sprayed from the 2 men dozens of meters away. After emptying a magazine, William reloaded and took a shot at Payne, who had rolled, staggered up, and tried to run. The bullet tore through him before he reached cover. He collapsed, spitting blood and refusing to accept his fate. With the main targets neutralized, William swept his gun across enemy shooters. After emptying another magazine, he slid down from the tree, reloaded, and focused only on those still firing at him. With superhuman reaction speed and his mental scan guiding him, he took down every armed man aiming his weapon. He ignored those who had discarded their guns and fled. Machine gun fire nearby told him Barney and his team were engaged with the approaching reinforcements. After backing away a dozen steps to check for threats, William ran toward Barney's flank. From a small slope, he raised his HK-416 and scoped the battlefield. Dozens, perhaps 100 figures crouched behind rocks and trees, trading fire with Barney's men. William launched a Black Phoenix drone from his storage, activated it, and threw it into the sky. With his helmet feeding synchronized video, he heard Barney shout, "Damn it, Gunnar and Thor, where are you? If you don't get here, come collect our bodies. Reload fast." Caesar's anxious voice crackled in William's ear. "1 more minute, hold on, we'll be there in 1 minute." Gunnar replied, equally tense. "Thor, quickly descend. I need a firing angle. Dive down fast." William told Gunnar, "Follow my line of sight for attack. Black Phoenix will provide the firing targets." A few seconds of tense silence were followed by cheers from the Expendables over the comms. Barney breathed, "Thank God you're okay, boss. We thought you were dead. Guys, fall back with covering fire. The boss is fine. No need to die fighting on the roadside." "Understood," came replies along the channel. The machine gun fire paused for about 10 seconds, then 2 guns resumed in alternating bursts as Barney and the 5 men covered each other in a fighting retreat. After pulling back over 100 meters, they reached a rock outcrop and stabilized their position, then began to counterattack in an organized fashion. "Everyone hide! I'm coming!" Gunnar called. William looked up and saw a seaplane a kilometer or 2 away, diving toward the battlefield, its nose lighting up as it brought its autocannon to bear. 2 seconds later, the autocannon chattered, an unmistakable thunder that sent the mercenaries ducking behind rocks or hitting the ground. The autocannon carved a line of explosions through the combat zone. William took advantage of the chaos to set up his HK-416. The rifle's mods gave it an effective range of 800 meters and greatly improved accuracy. From his position, he picked out targets and fired like a marksman. More than a dozen mercenaries within 300 or 400 meters fell in rapid succession. With Barney and his team pressuring from the ground and Thor and Gunnar's aircraft pressing from above, the remaining mercenaries began to lose heart. When the seaplane circled back into the fight, it broke their will to continue. Those out of autocannon range scattered and fled. William and his team ceased firing at retreating figures. The objective had been secured. Monroe and Garxa were dead. What happened next on the island would be the responsibility of the South American authorities. After regrouping with Barney's team, everyone piled back into the military truck and sped to the island's dock, where Thor and his crew waited. They cleared a few persistent shooters and confirmed the dock safe. In high spirits after completing the mission, the team didn't notice a young, striking woman watching them from a dilapidated 2-story building in the distance. Her face held gratitude, confusion, and a faint undercurrent of hatred, so much gratitude and bewilderment that the hate was almost eclipsed. William's mental awareness, usually sharp, missed her presence entirely. The woman's name was Sandra, the daughter of the island's former owner. William had no idea what kind of life this apparently inconsequential woman would lead more than 10 years later, or what impact she might have on the world. Once on the plane, William saw Edward, barely alive, being supported by Gunnar. William cocked an eyebrow at Gunnar, who had taken off his helmet and looked positively giddy. "Did you take powder, Gunnar?" William asked in a tone that made it clear he wasn't joking. Gunnar waved him off. "Don't worry, boss. I haven't touched that stuff since I started making real money. I'm rich now. I don't have to live like that anymore. I even want a wife and kids, like Barney and Yin Yang." William glanced at Barney. Barney, looking at Edward, removed his own helmet and chuckled. "I can guarantee Gunnar hasn't touched it again," he said. Chapter 142. The others nodded in agreement, and William, feeling Gunnar's steady heartbeat through his mental probe, took Gunnar at his word. He pointed to Edward and asked, "And this one is?" Gunnar let out a huge sigh of relief. Clearly, he was glad William wasn't dwelling on the old story about him eating flour. He definitely didn't want to get off the plane. In his 10-plus years as a mercenary, he'd never had a boss like William. Generous, decisive, making a fortune, retiring, getting married, having kids. That was the dream. Gunnar chuckled and patted his head. "Heh, boss, this guy's useless. He's told us everything he knows. We should fly straight to South Africa. There's something there you'll want to see." "What is it?" William was intrigued. There weren't many things that could catch his interest these days. "Stop being mysterious. Tell me." Gunnar pointed at Edward. "His boss is looking for a red diamond, over 60 carats, the size of a pigeon's egg. I heard the clarity's flawless." William cut him off. "Didn't you say pink earlier? How did it turn red?" Gunnar blinked at Edward, then shrugged. "He said red." Barney shook his head and looked at Gunnar like he'd lost his mind. "Are you kidding, Gunnar? The largest red diamond ever found is 5.11 carats. A flawless 60-carat red diamond. Do you know what that would be worth?" Gunnar sulked. "How should I know? I've been a pauper most of my life, spent everything the minute I got it." William said, "A starting bid like that would be at least $1 billion. The final price could double. Whoever owns a stone like that becomes the target of every thief and assassin on the planet. Wake up, Gunnar." Gunnar deflated a little. Yeah. I shouldn't care about red or pink diamonds. I was just hoping that if you got the red diamond, boss, you'd give me a little offcut as a trinket." Sigh. "I guess I'll stick to buying one of those De Beers rings for a few $100,000. God, women are crazy about diamond rings. De Beers cleans up." William's mind snapped to attention. He'd assumed a 60-carat pink diamond wasn't worth much in this era, so he hadn't paid it much mind. But if such a gemstone existed, and especially if it could be pitted against De Beers, this wasn't tens of millions of dollars anymore. It could be hundreds of millions, even billions. He let the thought sit and grow. "Guys, take your seats." Thor's voice came over the cabin intercom. "It's time to take off." The 6 men glanced at William. He nodded. "We're going to South Africa." "Understood," Barney said, heading toward the cockpit. The plane accelerated, skimmed across the water for several hundred meters, and lifted into the sky. William sat back and pulled out his secure satellite phone. He called his New York contact, Yuri Orlov. The line rang a long time before a brisk voice answered. "Good morning. Yuri Orlov speaking. Who is this?" William checked the number for a moment, then said, "Yuri, it's William Devonhill." "Oh, Mr. Devonhill, I'm terribly sorry. I was tied up. What can I do for you, Mr. Devonhill?" Yuri had been standing at his window when the call came in, the satellite phone pressed to his ear. He watched, through the glass, a surveillance truck idling below his building, and Jack Valentine, the head of the International Small Arms Proliferation Group, step out. Valentine had been monitoring Yuri for 6 months. What infuriated Yuri was how single-mindedly Valentine targeted him. The man sold light weapons, not heavy ordnance, yet the surveillance had cost Yuri millions in lost deals. If he hadn't had a conscience about family and safety, he would have had Valentine removed long ago. More than the money, it was the way Valentine had started to press on Yuri's wife, Ava. Her naive compassion now nudging her toward getting Yuri to quit the trade and go legit. Yuri swore privately at his wife for being so gullible. Between mortgage, family expenses, and Ava's tastes, Yuri needed at least $200,000 a month. He'd survived only because of some recent African deals and savings. Legitimate timber, oil, and mining contracts felt like punishment to him. Slow returns, strict rules. He was done with that life. The mood in Yuri's face brightened the moment he realized who was calling. William Devonhill was a platinum client, someone who could place orders worth millions. Yuri's company had been sluggish for months. Landing a customer like William could turn it around. "Mr. Devonhill," Yuri said, suddenly eager and ingratiating, "name your need. Oil, timber, minerals. I can get you the best price, guaranteed quality." William laughed. "Yuri, I know what you do. This isn't about oil or timber. Don't tell me you've given up on your true business. I'll be in touch, Lord of War." He hung up. Yuri stayed by the window, the call still ringing in his head. He knew exactly what William meant by his euphemisms. Vacuum cleaners for angel kings and mothers. translated in arms dealer slang to helicopters for rocket launchers and attack choppers. Big, expensive hardware. William had billions. Selling a single helicopter could bring in millions. The thought lit a greedy spark under Yuri's skin. His hands itched to make the calls. Before he could decide, there was a knock at the door. Ava strolled in, smiling. Yuri, Libya's Grand Vizier Andre Baptiste is about to arrive. You should get ready. What? I thought we were meeting at the hotel. How did he come here? Yuri's voice tightened. Help me get ready. Suit, tie. I'll be right out. The knock came again. Yuri opened the door and found Andre Baptiste and his volatile son, Andre Jr., on his doorstep, grinning. Andre hugged him as if they were old friends. Yuri, you surprise me. If I hadn't had some pull, I might not have found out you retired. Come in. Won't you invite us for a drink? Yuri stepped back, uneasy. No, if it's business, we'll meet at the hotel. This is my home. I don't discuss business here. Andre waved him off. He wasn't offended. Showing up at Yuri's house was a message in itself. I planned to meet at the hotel, but it isn't safe. My security warned me we were being watched the moment we landed. It's safer here. Yuri's face went cold. He'd counted on keeping things discreet. If people already knew Andre was coming to him, the risk to his family had just gone up. He squared his shoulders and moved to the side to let them in, knowing the choice he'd been forced into had just gotten a lot more dangerous. Chapter 143. But the moment you come to see me, our relationship will be exposed. From then on, it won't just be the International Small Arms and Light Weapons Proliferation Group watching me. The Secret Service might start keeping an eye on me tonight. How am I supposed to do business after that? Andre laughed. Yuri, that's rich. We've been doing business together for 10 years. Do you really think your country's Secret Service doesn't know about us? Besides, I can't afford to worry about that now. The situation's dangerous. Conflicts are escalating, and my country is restricted from imports and exports. I need someone with influence like you to get me through this. Yuri, who had been tempted at first, stiffened when Andre admitted he was being watched as well. He turned for the door. I'm sorry, Andre. The timing's wrong. I can't help you this time. No. Andre stepped forward and blocked the exit. He stared at Yuri for a long beat, then smiled with a knowing look. Heh, I get it, Yuri. It's normal to raise your price at a time like this. With that, he took a diamond from his pocket and placed it in Yuri's hand. Yuri felt the weight and gasped. It was a flawless stone the size of 2 pigeons' eggs, at least 100 carats. His head did the math instantly. At auction, it could pull $10 million. Even on the black market, it would fetch $5 million. Andre shrugged. You understand. Given what's at stake, I'll pay any price to get what I need. Think about it, Yuri. This is several, maybe a dozen times the usual profit. Opportunities like this don't come around often. As an arms dealer, you know what to do. Yuri stared at the diamond. The confusion washed out of his face and greed crept in. Weapons were his specialty. He'd grown tired of oil and timber deals. A chance to multiply his earnings like this was irresistible. Andre, watching the change in Yuri's expression, laughed with pleasure. Welcome back, Yuri. I hope we do business again soon, Lord of War. Yuri made up his mind. He gave a faint smile and turned to Andre's son. Little Andre, I owe you one. I still haven't given you Rambo's gun. I'll make good this time. I'll get you a brand new M60. Really? Little Andre rubbed his dark, shaved head and grinned. I was just going to remind you. Thanks, Mr. Orlov. Heh, all right, time to go shopping. Andre said, chuckling as he left. Goodbye, Yuri. After seeing them off, Yuri went inside, stripped off his shirt, loosened his tie, and stepped out onto the balcony with a cigarette. He stared at Central Park while he smoked. After a few cigarettes, he went back to his study, opened the safe, took out an unused secure satellite phone, and called William. William Devonshire, meditating with his eyes closed on the plane, opened his eyes, took out his phone, and answered. Hi, Yuri. Have you thought it through? Yuri's surprise was immediate. William sounded like he already knew what had happened. Yes, Mr. Devonshire, but how did you? Heh, William said. Yuri, who do you think I am? I don't do business without doing my homework. I know everything about you. Your parents, your brother, your wife, your adorable son, Nick. I even know about the secret warehouse under the Brooklyn Bridge. The password is your son's birthday, isn't it? Hearing that, Yuri's head spun. He forced out, Yeah, yes, Mr. Devonshire. Don't worry, I'm not interested in policing you, and I'm certainly not after your money. Your bank balance is a rounding error to me. One tip, change that password, and with this deal, you can test whether your lovely wife is still loyal. William's voice turned businesslike. Do you need me to deal with Jack Valentine outside your house? You don't have much time. I need this delivered to Seville by the day after tomorrow. I'll pay 12 times the normal price. What I need is time, understood? 12 times the going rate cleared Yuri's head in an instant. Understood, Mr. Devonshire. Thank you. Yes, I do need Jack Valentine out of the way. With him there, it'll cost me time and energy. Good. Someone will take care of Jack soon. In 2 days, there's a conference in South Africa on combating blood diamond smuggling. We'll meet there. The cargo you need will be available when you log into the dark web later. Understood. Goodbye, Mr. Devonshire. Yuri hung up and paced on the balcony, hands in the air. With that kind of money on the table, he didn't care if William was watching him. William had leverage, sure, but he wasn't the type to threaten for sport. Yuri sold weapons, not soda. He could accept a measure of pressure. After ending the call with Yuri, William dialed Brian. Find someone to rough up Jack Valentine. 1 million for the job. No problem, boss. I'll take care of it. Brian hesitated, then added, By the way, boss, you want me to send you that money you left with me in Las Vegas last time? No need. Keep it for now. You'll have plenty to do in the future. It avoids transfer headaches. Brian swore softly. That's 100 million. I haven't slept properly trying to stash that. Aren't you worried? William chuckled. I trust you, Brian. Maybe in a few years that amount won't be enough. Think long term. Bye. Bye, boss. Brian hung up, baffled. 100 million for PR in a few years? What kind of business was this? Half an hour later, Yuri saw several NYPD SWAT vehicles roar around the corner near Jack Valentine's surveillance van. A dozen or more fully armed officers split into 2 teams and approached the van. To Yuri's surprise, they ignored the usual formalities. They breached the rear door with a tool, tossed a flashbang inside, and the grenade detonated with a blinding bang. Hands up! NYPD! Hands up! The officers shouted. The flashbang left the men inside dazed. 2 of them had blood trickling from their ears. Jack Valentine tried to shout, We're with you, but only managed broken sounds. Officers rushed in and tased them. Jack didn't wake again until the next afternoon. From his balcony, Yuri watched the NYPD drag Jack and the others out like limp corpses. A huge, muscular South American man, nearly 2 meters tall, reported to a middle-aged superintendent. Sir, all 4 suspects are in custody. Their vehicle contained extensive surveillance gear consistent with the intelligence. They may have been targeting the financial center vault. What are your orders? The superintendent smiled thinly. Good work. Lock them up and don't let anyone contact them. Wait for the Secret Service to take over. Luke Hobbs, and I mean this, be careful. We're not to interfere with Secret Service matters, understand? Luke Hobbs hesitated at the name. The superintendent leaned in and hissed, Look, even if you're angling for a promotion or anything else, don't get us involved. If something smells off, keep it to yourself. Secret Service cases are above us. If there's a problem, take it up the chain. For now, cuff them, book them, and don't let anyone in. Luke saw the others watching him. Suspicion rippled through the squad. He understood what they all did. This operation had a hidden agenda. Locking these men up and sealing them off would buy whoever was pulling the strings 2 or 3 days to finish whatever they needed to do. By then, departments would shift responsibility, claim they acted on intel, and the ones arrested would be the ones who suffered. At worst, officials would apologize later, pay some hospital bills, and find a scapegoat. Reluctantly, Luke barked the orders. You heard him. Arrest them, treat them as needed, and put them in solitary until the appropriate people arrive. Understood. Chapter 144. Yuri waited on the balcony until the NYPD cars had driven away. Only then did he walk back to his study, boot up a specially encrypted computer, and as agreed, log on to the dark web to pull up the cargo manifest William had sent him. When he saw the list, his pulse quickened. God, he muttered. He really lives up to being filthy rich. Is he trying to start a war? The list read, 2,000 AKs, 100 complete sets of Arctic Bear individual weapon kits, 3 Heinz, 20 rocket launchers, and 3 basic loads of ammunition. Yuri frowned. 3 basic loads meant only about 900 rounds for the rifles. That wasn't enough for any real campaign. In the circles Yuri moved in, anything under 10 basic loads wasn't even considered a fight. Maybe William wasn't planning a prolonged war, just a quick grab and go. And the 100 Arctic Bear mercenaries, each paid $20,000 with an extra $20,000 bonus for every battle won. Yuri swore quietly. Rich men were dangerous. If every mercenary stood to win $20,000 per battle, desperation would make those 100 veterans tear anyone limb from limb for the money. Still, that didn't bother Yuri much. Even if William wanted more than 100, Yuri could recruit through his Arctic Bear contacts. He could guarantee seasoned fighters. He did a quick calculation. The deal was about $20 million, and with a 1.2 multiplier that came to $24 million. His share would be over $14 million. He grinned. His previous annual profit wasn't even half that. He found himself looking down on Andre, his general manager in Libya, and sneered at memories of past hassles. Andre buying only a few hundred or 1,000 AKs at a time, sometimes defaulting on payments, reneging on armored vehicle orders, and costing Yuri hundreds of thousands. This time, Yuri decided he'd only supply Andre a fifth of the black market price equivalent to the 100-carat diamond Andre had given him, 500 AKs, 10 basic loads of ammunition, a few hundred grenades, and a few dozen rocket launchers. It was enough, and it would be paid for. Once he had the sales side sorted, Yuri called his Ukrainian suppliers. With Jack Valentine arrested, he no longer worried about eavesdroppers. Within minutes, he had secured the weapons and used his contacts to arrange for 100 retired Arctic Bear Special Forces soldiers. Less than half an hour later, the men were committed, and for a hefty fee, had agreed to be transported to Sierra Leone. He dressed, grabbed his briefcase, and went downstairs, where Ava and their son were preparing to leave. He hesitated beside her. "Darling, I'm going to." He cut himself off and remembered William's warning. He changed his story. "I'm heading to Brazil for an oil procurement meeting. I won't be able to go to the pool with you." He crouched to Nick's level. "Sorry, baby, Daddy can't go swimming today. How about Daddy brings you a present when he gets back?" At the word present, Nick beamed and planted a kiss on his cheek. "Then you have to come home early, Daddy. I'll wait. No problem. Daddy will come back early. Bye-bye, baby." "Bye-bye, Daddy," Nick replied in his childish voice. Yuri tried another test. "This meeting will take 2 days. I'll probably be back Saturday. How about a family trip to Switzerland then?" Ava smiled and kissed his cheek. "That sounds great. Nick and I have to go now. I won't see you off. Come home early, okay? Bye." Her eagerness made Yuri uneasy. He probed, "You trust me, right?" Her smile grew sweeter, but Yuri was no fool. He'd worked with police and Interpol so often he could read acting for what it was. There was a distance in Ava's eyes now, scrutiny and suspicion where there had once been affection. He felt the cold realization that she had changed. He climbed into his car and noticed, through the tinted glass, a Cadillac following at a discreet distance, Ava's car. He called his driver, Pete. "Drive around for an hour. We'll head to the Brooklyn Bridge then." An hour later, he noticed the Cadillac still trailing him. He let Pete drive to the Brooklyn Bridge, then pulled under it and walked toward the shipping container he'd been using to store certain items. He opened the container briefly, put his passport and some documents into his briefcase, then drove onto the bridge and took out binoculars. From the bridge, he watched as Ava and Nick pulled up and opened the combination lock on the container. A tiny hope flickered in him. Maybe she wouldn't expose what was inside. Maybe for old time's sake, she wouldn't hand him over. That hope died in under 20 minutes. Police cars descended on the spot, and reporters arrived soon after. Cameras flashed as officers uncovered rows of firearms, both long and short, laid out on the ground after they searched the container. When word spread that the weapons belonged to Yuri Orlov, a well-known New York businessman, the press smelled a major scoop. Then 2 black sedans pulled up, and 7 or 8 well-dressed men stepped out. The lead man approached the police, handed over a long document, and announced, "Excuse me, officer. I'm Attorney Terry of X Law Firm. This is a special collection certificate issued by the New York Gun Association. My client, Mr. Yuri Orlov, is authorized to collect these firearms." even if he doesn't have a license for every weapon here. Under the special collection rules, as long as these arms remain in his collection room, they are not illegal. Your entry constitutes a violation. I expect an explanation." The senior officer was stunned. He took the document, radioed it in, and learned it had been issued only 10 minutes before the alarm, signed less than an hour ago. The legalities were complicated, but on the face of it, the officers faced a claim of unlawful entry and risked violating private property. The officer sighed and, for now, packed up his team. Yuri watched as the police withdrew, ignoring Terry and the lawyers as they drove away. The attorney didn't pursue them. At best, it would have ended in compensation and an apology. Under Terry's assistant's warnings of legal action, the assembled reporters were forced to hand over their film and cards. They couldn't report on the weapon's illegal possession when the paperwork looked legitimate, but the discovery of a freshly issued legal certificate was itself a story. The newsroom editors quickly pivoted. Rather than running a takedown story on Yuri, they began drafting pieces about how a rich man had dodged accountability and how the NYPD had been outmaneuvered. It was a more popular angle, and they left with eager grins. Yuri slammed the binoculars down and felt fury like a physical thing in his chest. He thought of Jack Valentine. How, years ago, he'd set things in motion that had changed Ava, and he swore he wanted to kill him. If it weren't for that man, his family might still be intact. He slid into the back seat, staring at the car roof with hollow eyes. He didn't much care how the papers spun it. Many already suspected his dealings. As long as he didn't break the law, or could prove he hadn't, he was safe. Grateful for William's prior warning, which had kept incriminating transaction documents from falling into the wrong hands, Yuri pulled out his secure phone and called. When William answered, he was lounging on a few seats inside the Expendables plane, eyes half closed. He chuckled. "What happened?" "Thank you, Mr. Devlin," Yuri said. "If it weren't for your warning, I could have been taken down by the one closest to me. Once a woman's heart turns, she can wish you dead. I have some advice. If you ever decide to marry, spend a few years with the person first. Don't make the mistake I did, finding someone who loves everything else more than her husband." William laughed softly. "Don't worry, I have no plans to marry. It's a headache for a man like me. I can find companions without the paperwork. But thanks for the tip." Yuri brightened, talking business. "Everything's arranged. Aside from the helicopters being a bit troublesome, the rest should be in Seville in about 12 hours. "The 100 mercenaries?" William asked. "On standby in Sierra Leone. All are Arctic Bear Special Forces veterans. Many fought in the northern regions. They're top-notch. As long as they get paid, they'll do the job." Yuri felt the tension in his chest ease a little. He had a massive deal and protection in place. He also had the bitter knowledge that, whatever came next, nothing in his life would ever feel the same. Chapter 145. Haha, it's not that complicated. I just need them to help me take care of one person. Hearing William's words, Yuri's doubts deepened. Who had William offended so badly that he was willing to spend tens of millions and mobilize so many people to eliminate them? How deep could such a grudge be? Yuri hesitated, then asked, "May I be so bold? Who do you want to eliminate?" "Jet Froby. Do you know him?" William asked, hoping to learn something from Yuri. "Jet Froby? The mercenary leader who fought in Sierra Leone?" Yuri exclaimed. "That's him. Yuri, have you ever dealt with him?" "I used to, but lately Jet Froby seems to have teamed up with someone called Stonebanks. One supplies weapons, the other manpower. They're planning to take over an abandoned nuclear facility," Yuri said, his voice uncertain. William's eyes lit up. "So if I take out Jet Froby, no government will come after me? Is that accurate?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Devonshire, I can't confirm that yet," Yuri replied. "Today, my contacts in Ukraine tipped me off that an armed group plans to occupy an abandoned mining site in the Gazakh mountains of Albania. That place was a secret Red Bear mining site 2 decades ago. I was told there's a lot of mushroom bombs stored there. The information is unconfirmed, but it's true that Stonebanks has mushroom bombs. Stonebanks is far more reckless and dangerous than Jet. He sells any weapon for money. His manpower is limited, but they're all elites and hard to deal with. Many countries are after him, but they can't even find him. If you run into Stonebanks, be very careful. But if you can eliminate Jet Froby and Stonebanks, I guarantee no government will trouble you. Some might even thank you. Do you have a photo of Stonebanks? William asked. The name sounded familiar. Apologies, but most who knew his identity are dead. The remaining ones are either his accomplices or leaders with heavy backing. I only sell light weapons. I don't interact with those circles much, but I'll keep an eye out for you. If he couldn't find Stonebanks, William thought, he'd deal with that later after capturing Jet Froby. Thank you. We'll discuss the rest when we meet in South Africa. All right, goodbye, Mr. Devonshire. Goodbye. William hung up, went to the cockpit and asked, how much longer until we get there? Barney grinned at the impatient man. Sorry, boss, it's still a long way, about 11 more hours. We'll have to refuel twice. Damn, we've already flown 4 hours and it's still more than 10, William grumbled. Ha ha, boss, this is still fast. No waiting for commercial flights or transfers. Barney and Thor, in the co-pilot's seat, laughed. William returned to the cabin, using his backpack as a pillow, and slept on the floor with Christmas and the others. Thor stayed on the plane to guard the equipment. Someone would handle his food. 13 hours later, the plane touched down in South Africa and landed on a designated beach. Barney paid for connections to get entry permits for the 7 of them. By the time the paperwork was done, it was already 11 at night. They found a nice beach hotel and booked an entire floor. Everyone slept deeply. At dawn, William changed into the formal wear the hotel provided and, with Christmas looking less menacing than usual, climbed into the luxury car the hotel had arranged. They drove to the Cape Town International Convention Center, where an international conference on blood diamonds was being held that day. Barney and the others would head straight to Sierra Leone to pick up equipment and personnel, and according to information from the church, to find a large black man named Solomon Vandy. William took a seat in the back of the convention center and waited for Yuri. Just as the conference began, Yuri rushed in carrying a briefcase. He found William, sat a row ahead, and slipped him a document. William opened it and saw a photo of an estate. Yuri whispered, "This is Jet Froby's estate in South Africa, just over 10 kilometers outside Cape Town. I don't recommend taking action there. It's guarded by 2 companies of mercenaries. Any action could alert South African authorities, and if special forces get involved, it will be a major headache." William said, looking over the information. He'd never intended to act in Cape Town anyway. South Africa wasn't a small place like Montenegro. Acting in Cape Town would be courting disaster. He sat through the conference distractedly until it ended. Representatives from De Beers and other major jewelers signed an anti-blood diamond trading agreement in front of the attendees. William breathed a private sigh of relief. Witnessing De Beers' sign had been his purpose for attending. With that objective achieved, he skipped the reception and returned to the hotel with Yuri. They settled on the suite's balcony, a sea breeze cutting the night, and William poured Yuri a glass of whiskey. After a few civilities, William said, "I hear you have a good relationship with Andre in Liberia?" "Yes, Mr. Devonshire. We've been cooperating about 10 years. In the 90s, Andre was my main client. Our relationship is solid," Yuri replied. "Very good. Can you ask Andre if he'd like to make some extra money? I need 2,000 Liberian mercenaries willing to make money to help me with something." Yuri set his glass down and stared. "Is this about Jet Froby?" William chuckled and nodded. "Exactly." Yuri thought for a moment and shook his head. "Mr. Devonshire, you don't need to go to Andre for African mercenaries. He's got his own troubles right now. Going to him will only cause complications. If you pay, there are plenty of mercenaries in southern Sierra Leone who fight for money. At $1,000 each, you could recruit 10,000 if you wanted." William's excitement showed. "So you know people?" "Of course. In 20 years in this trade, I've met many who call themselves leaders. For the right pay, they'll do private work." "Good. 30% commission?" William asked. "No problem, Mr. Devonshire. I'll handle it," Yuri said eagerly. The prospect of easy money animated him. "Gather the men and have them stand by in Kono in the south. Send your batch of 2,000 AKs and ammunition to Kono as well. I'll have someone deliver the 30% deposit to you in cash in New York. Any problems?" "No problem. Thank you," Yuri said. wiping his hands and shaking William's hand. With that settled, William took Christmas to the airport and flew on to Sierra Leone, Freetown. As William stepped off the plane, Barney was waiting with more than 20 men in plain clothes and sunglasses, besides 6 Mercedes G-Wagons. They waved him over. William hugged Barney, then climbed into the middle vehicle with Barney and Christmas. As the convoy pulled out, Barney nodded toward the driver. "Boss, this is Captain Antonov of the Polar Bear Squad." Before retiring, he commanded the unit, rank of lieutenant colonel. "Captain Antonov, this is our boss, William Devonshire." Antonov turned, gave William a quick smile, then refocused on the road. His English was heavily accented. "Good afternoon, boss. I am Antonov, captain of this operation." Hearing the accent, William laughed heartily and replied in the polar bear tongue, "Hello, Captain. Maybe we'll find a chance to have a good drink. Your accent might improve." "Haha, good suggestion. Thank you, boss," Antonov said, pleased that William was easygoing. Then he shifted to business. "Captain, are you satisfied with your equipment?" Antonov nodded. "Very satisfied. Some of this kit is more advanced than what we used to have." "Excellent," William said. "Barney, have you found Solomon Vandy yet?" "Sorry, boss. Time was short. We haven't found him yet. But we paid a Sierra Leonean leader and secured special self-defense rights for emergencies and a hidden base outside Freetown. As long as we don't attack Sierra Leonean officials, we can operate freely here." William blinked in surprise. Barney pursed his lips. "You know, boss, in some places money can do anything. Of course, we'll only use it for mission-related things." Chapter 146. William looked at Antonov with some concern. "Captain Antonov, I hope you can keep your men in line. I don't want to have to enforce military law on them." "Don't worry, boss," Antonov replied. "We were regular army before. The men who came this time all have families to feed. We're here to make money, not to brutalize civilians. We only care about the job." William chuckled. Barney and Church laughed as well. Antonov blinked, puzzled. "Is something wrong with what I said?" Christmas, who was sitting beside Antonov, grinned. "Antonov, my friend, the last thing you should worry about is money. If something can be solved with money, it's not a problem for the boss. What you should worry about is whether there will be work. If this job goes well, each of you will get 2 million. We can wire it to your families. No need for you to carry it home yourselves." At the mention that money wasn't an issue, Antonov's stern expression broke into a relieved smile. "All right, my mistake. I apologize." Once the jokes died down, Barney reported, 3 Mi-24 Hind helicopters will be here in about 10 hours. Each comes with spare parts, but we don't have a proper maintenance base. The field base outside Freetown can do simple upkeep to keep them flying, but without thorough inspections and major repairs after deployments, they'll be worn out fast. Boss, we need a place for major maintenance." William waved a hand. "No, I only care that they're fit for the first few sorties. I don't care what happens to those 3 hinds after the operation. If any of you want them, I'll give them away." Antonov was taken aback. "God, those were bought for $15 million. Such a big asset. Won't you reconsider, boss?" William shook his head. "They're useless to me. I don't have industries here in Africa to protect, and I'm not interested in minerals, oil, or natural resources. Those are already controlled by governments and big companies. Getting involved would take too much time and effort for too little return. Barney, you have any thoughts?" Barney quickly shook his head. "No, boss. I don't want the Secret Service knocking on my door. We're mercenaries, not national armies. The trouble we'd get into isn't worth it." William knew Barney and his men usually took small-scale operations. "Antonov, what about you? After this job, will you go home with the money or stay here? Have you ever thought of officially forming a polar bear mercenary unit? I could invest, provide weapons and equipment." Antonov thought a moment. "Sorry, boss. After the job, I'll go home. $40,000 plus a job back home is enough for my family to live comfortably. Most of the others will probably go home too. The average age of the men who came is 30, and 70% have wives and kids. If life at home wasn't so hard, we wouldn't be here. So I apologize." "Fine," William said. "Then I suppose I'll have to sell them at a discount. Maybe I can get half price and recoup some losses from what I gave the Sierra Leone leaders." Barney and the others laughed. It was easy to follow a boss who didn't sweat money. Barney shook his head. Boss, I don't think it'll cost that much. Getting the private security license only cost $2 million. $7.5 million will cover 3 missions here. William looked out at the decay of Freetown, the capital, and said, "Once is enough. I will never come to this hellhole a second time." They all agreed. Even Antonov, who had endured hunger and hardship, shook his head at the sight of the ruined city. "I always thought we were poor," he sighed, "but I never imagined a country could be this rotten." Silence settled over the car. The convoy drove toward the only 4-star hotel along the waterfront, but did not stop at the main entrance. Instead, it passed and turned through an iron gate into a courtyard behind the hotel. Barney and his team had rented a 3-story building there with over 60 rooms. As the convoy rolled by the hotel's front, William, watching intently, noticed a bald, dark-skinned man in a white shirt and dark red vest carrying luggage for guests. Seeing him clearly, William tapped the seat beside Antonov. "Stop the car up ahead, Antonov." Antonov picked up his walkie-talkie. "Pull over and stop the car up ahead. Repeat, pull over and stop." The convoy halted by the hotel's side entrance. William pointed at the bellboy and said to Christmas, "Christmas, you get out with the men from the last car and find that man. I want to see him." "Understood." Christmas didn't ask why. Barney handed him a radio, and he slid out of the vehicle. The convoy then continued to the rented building. They stopped in front of the 3-story annex. 6 men in black suits left the cars. 5 formed a protective ring around William's vehicle, while 1 went into the building to check on the dozen people waiting inside. Once he gave the all-clear, William, flanked by his escorts, entered and went up to the 3rd-floor suite. It was a decent room, but aside from size and a French window overlooking the beach and sea, it offered little to interest William. He stood for a moment at the window, taking in the view. Christmas returned and knocked. "Boss, I've brought him. Do you want to see him now?" "Wait a minute, Christmas. You and your men go to the Swiss National Bank branch in Freetown. Someone will meet you there. Withdraw $5 million. Christmas nodded. "Right away." William called Felix, his private account manager at the bank, to arrange the funds. After he hung up, he ate, showered, and then found Solomon nervously pacing in the suite living room. An hour earlier, Solomon had just finished carrying luggage at the hotel entrance and was heading back to the lobby when 3 large men in suits and sunglasses stopped him. The sight of 3 2-meter-tall strangers frightened him. Before he could gather his senses, a deep voice behind asked, "Excuse me a moment." Solomon turned and saw a bald, burly man in a suit studying him. Surrounded by 4 white men, he lowered his eyes. "Are you talking to me, sir?" The man nodded. "What's your name?" "Sir, I'm Solomon Vandy. How can I help you?" "Oh, Solomon Vandy?" The man, Christmas, now understood why William had wanted to see him. He smiled. "Mr. Vandy, please come with me. Someone wants to speak with you." He gestured, then led Solomon toward the back of the hotel. Solomon protested. "Sir, aren't you mistaken? I'm just a bellboy." Before he could finish, a polar bear merc pushed him forward. Unable to resist the silent pressure of armed men, Solomon followed. They took him to the annex's most private guest building and into the living room outside the 3rd-floor suite, where a dozen expressionless, armed bodyguards stood at attention. After his shower and a final check of the room, William called Solomon in. Solomon entered to find a tall, excessively handsome young man, about 1.9 meters, holding a wine glass and looking out the window. Barney and Christmas were in suits and ties. William wore casual clothes. Solomon immediately bowed. "Hello, sir. I'm Solomon Vandy. How can I help you?" William didn't waste time. "Tell me where the pink diamond is. If you cooperate, this money is yours." He reached into a large bag on the table and pulled out $200,000, tossing it onto the table. The sight of the neat stack of bills made Solomon's heart race. He stammered, "Sorry, sir. I don't know what you're talking about." William smiled. "No, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't know who I am yet. Allow me. My name is William Devonshire, an Englishman, heir to the Earl of Oxford, and a billionaire with a net worth in the tens of billions. Mr. Vandy, I don't want the stone for myself. What I want is you." Solomon's mouth fell open. With his limited worldview, he couldn't imagine what a man that wealthy could possibly want from a bellboy other than the diamond. Cautious, he shook his head. Mr. Devonshire, I'm just a bellboy. I've never heard of any diamond. You have the wrong person. William cut him off. All right, tell me what you want. As long as it's reasonable, I can give it to you. I could even help you find your wife and children. At the mention of his family, Solomon's careful demeanor collapsed. He took an eager step forward, desperate, but before he could come closer than 3 meters, Barney's hand pushed him gently but firmly back to where he had been standing. Barney unbuttoned his suit jacket, revealing the pistol holster at his waist. I'm warning you, he said. Stand still right there. Any dangerous move and I'll shoot. Yes, sir. Solomon's voice trembled. He went pale at the sight of the gun. I'm sorry. I'll stand right here. Okay, Barney, don't scare Mr. Vandy, William said, stepping forward to clap Barney on the shoulder. He knew Barney's instincts. Barney had warned Solomon earlier because of the tall, burly man's agitation. At William's words, Barney relaxed and nodded at Solomon, which made the man visibly grateful. Standing ramrod straight, Solomon asked, Mr. Devonshire, can you really help me find my family? William laughed softly. Mr. Vandy, trust in money. If your family is alive, I can find them. Solomon looked at the heavy bag of US dollars on the table and thought of his relatives, missing for almost a month. He didn't hesitate. If you can find my family and get us out of this country, I'll take you to the Pink Diamond, free of charge. William smiled. Solomon, I never said I wanted to steal your diamond. On the black market, those blood diamonds from Sierra Leone go for a fraction of their legal value. I'll give you $3 million for that diamond, and if you help me with one favor, I'll send your entire family to live quietly in Switzerland or England. Those terms calmed Solomon. He asked, worried, Mr. Devonshire, what can a man like me do to help? William didn't answer directly. Has anyone approached you recently about a diamond? Solomon looked surprised. Yes, yesterday a white man in the slum outside the city asked me about diamonds. I didn't tell him anything and ran. Good. I need you to bring that man to a place I choose. To show my sincerity, I'll help you find your family first. Really? God, Mr. Devonshire, I'll do anything. Even die for you, Solomon blurted, his voice cracking with desperation. William chuckled. No, Solomon, I don't need you to die. I only need you to play your part naturally, to put on a little show for certain people. A show? Solomon looked baffled. I'm just a fisherman. I can't act. Who are you asking me to act for? You're a better actor than you think. William walked closer, amused by the man's confusion. You don't have to act. Look at your face, honest, trustworthy. You were convincing the moment you walked in. Just be yourself and you'll fool anyone who doesn't know you. Hearing that, Solomon fidgeted with his fingers. I'm sorry, Mr. Devonshire. There are so many after my diamond. I've had to be careful. My experience has made me suspicious of everyone. William grinned. Exactly. Who would have thought a tall, honest-looking fisherman would be so cunning? Maybe when you get to Europe, you could try being an actor. Solomon allowed himself a brief smile, picturing his family living peacefully in a foreign land. William patted him, moved to the desk, and started a video call to Sam in New York. Once the connection came through, William said to the still grinning Solomon, Tell me your family's names and anything else you remember. The more detail, the better. Then Sam can start searching. Solomon eagerly rattled off a list of names and details about his wife and 3 children. Half an hour later, Sam replied, Boss, I found Jessie Vandy and her 2 daughters, Ada, 8, and baby Kathy, 6 months, registered with the International Red Cross. They're in the Tassin refugee camp in Guinea. They appear to be safe for now. The bad news is the 11-year-old boy, Dia Vandy, isn't in the database. I'll keep searching and try to contact Jessie directly for any clues about Dia. I'll update you if I find anything. All right, William said. Get someone to record a video of Jessie and the girls and send it to me, but don't tell them anything about Solomon. Also arrange discreet protection for the 3 of them. Brian will cover the costs. Understood. The video will be on your laptop in 30 minutes. Bye, boss. After the call, William watched Solomon, who had been pinned to the ground by Barney and Christmas and was now panting and shouting. When Solomon first heard his family had been found, he grinned wildly. Then, hearing his son was missing, he lunged for the desk, screaming, Why? Christmas stopped him after a few steps. When Solomon ignored the warning, Christmas took him down. Even so, Solomon surprised them all. He was incredibly strong. In his agitated state, he nearly overpowered seasoned Christmas until Barney stepped in to help restrain him. William ignored the commotion, poured himself a glass of whiskey, and sat on the sofa. He waited until Solomon finally exhausted himself. After more than 10 minutes, Solomon sagged, and William said, "Barney, Christmas, let him go." They released him and rose, exchanging looks of disbelief. Both now saw a new side of this supposedly harmless man. Solomon was strong and had surprising endurance. Barney even wondered if Solomon could be trained as a heavy weapons specialist. William turned back to Solomon. "Are you calm now?" Solomon lay panting on the floor, staring up at him. When his breathing steadied, William gestured to the sofa. "Sit. I won't do anything to your wife and daughters. In the Tassin camp, I don't need to intervene directly. There's space for things to happen there. Not telling Jessie about you will help later. When you two meet, her reaction will be genuine. No one will suspect anything. Right now, your son Dia is what you should worry about." At the mention of his son, Solomon leapt to his feet. "Dia was taken by the rebels, I'm sure of it. Please help me, I'll do anything." William studied him, amused by the flip from desperate to hard-eyed. "I'll find your son, but listen carefully. If you lie to me or wreck my plans, I'll pull protection from your wife and daughters and leave them in the Tassin camp. That's the world's second-largest refugee camp. Without protection, they'd be exposed to everything. As for you and your son, I'll throw you into the darkest, most sunless underground mines in southern Sierra Leone. There's no escape there. When food runs out, people do terrible things." The image jolted Solomon. He was from the South himself and had heard the stories. He'd even been taken into mining areas before. He knew how bleak those places could be. He trembled. No, I promise. I'll complete your mission. I swear on my family's name, I'll do it even if I die." William watched him for a long beat, then nodded. "Good. Once the mission is done, whether you live or die, I'll honor the deal and get your family out. Even if I don't get the pink diamond, I'll still pay you $3 million. The laptop chimed as a file arrived. William sat back and watched Christmas bring the screen around to show Solomon. When the video played, Solomon saw his wife Jessie holding the baby and his eldest daughter in a line for food. Each person was getting only a small piece of bread. Joy and heartbreak warred on Solomon's face, and tears streamed down his cheeks. Minutes later, a white man in a white coat appeared in the footage. He walked up to Jessie and asked if she would take a job washing clothes and cleaning for the volunteers. Jessie eagerly nodded, thanking him, and then followed the man toward a medical tent with her two daughters. The video tracked them as they went inside a fenced medical area guarded at the gate. Solomon watched it twice, then stood and bowed to William, choking out thanks. Seeing his family alive and in a secure part of the camp moved him profoundly. William had already done more than Solomon dared hope. He'd located Jessie and the girls and arranged protection. Finding Dia would depend on William's next moves. Instead of recoiling at the mission ahead, Solomon felt a hard, eager determination settle over him. If he could deliver what William asked for, he would secure $3 million and the chance to give his family a new life in a safe country. He found himself, for the first time since his family disappeared, looking forward to the future. Chapter 148. William's look toward Solomon no longer held the same wariness and distrust. "Christmas, give Solomon the gear. I need to know his every move so we can react." "Understood, boss." Christmas nodded and went to fetch the equipment. He returned a moment later carrying an ordinary pair of shoes, an inconspicuous leather belt, and a small box. "These are size 10, European 45. There's a receiver in the heel of each shoe with a transmission range of 5 kilometers. Judging by your feet, size 45 should fit." Solomon quickly took off his own shoes, sat on the ground, and put on the new pair. He stood, walked a few steps, and said, "Perfect, fits fine." He buckled the belt and tucked a grain of rice-sized earpiece into his ear. The microphone was embedded in the belt buckle. Christmas adjusted the earpiece and tracker, then joked, "Be careful, Solomon. This set is worth $120,000. That tiny earpiece alone is $100,000. Don't lose it." Solomon was speechless. He stared at Christmas with his mouth open. William, Barney, and Christmas burst out laughing. When they calmed down, William said, "All right, Christmas, stop scaring him." He spread a map on the table and asked Solomon, "Where is that mine?" Solomon studied the map a long time without being able to mark the exact spot. He only knew it was roughly 20 kilometers north of his village. To pinpoint it, they'd need to travel by vehicle or on foot. William, however, was unfazed. The mining area was large. If they launched a blackthorn drone from Solomon's village and headed north, they'd find it eventually. William traced the map and saw that Freetown was only about 180 kilometers from Solomon's village, well within the Heinz combat radius of 310 kilometers. Christmas, take your men and the blackthorn drones in the Hind and start searching. When you find the mining area, don't act rashly. He turned back to Solomon. "Do you have a photo of Dia?" Solomon's face fell. "No, when the rebels attacked my village, there wasn't time to take anything." "That makes things harder," William said. "We'll probably have to wait until you get to the mining area and see if you can find your son yourself." It had been almost 2 hours. William told Solomon to go back to the lobby and keep working, and someone would come for him later. As Solomon left, William added, "Act natural, Solomon. Think about that $3 million. Think about your wife and children and the life in Europe you'll have. Think about the life you have now. Let that give you strength." "Understood, Mr. Devonshire. I won't let you down." Solomon rubbed his face. When he lowered his hands, his expression had reverted to the honest, simple look William preferred. Pleased, William told him to dirty and scuff the new shoes and wear some of the finish off the belt buckle. Solomon looked at the new gear with a pang but nodded. He understood the intent and was quietly more vigilant. "Thank you, Mr. Devonshire. I'll do as you say once I leave. Goodbye, sir." As Solomon left, Antonov came in anxious. "Boss, we just got word the rebels are only about 30 kilometers out. The official forces might not hold Freetown. What should we do? That fast?" William frowned in disbelief. Weren't they 100 kilometers away? How did they close 70 kilometers in one day? Damn it, were the official forces asleep, letting the rebels march into Freetown? After cursing, Antonov suggested, "We should fall back to the temporary base outside the city. It's north of Freetown near the coast. If it gets bad, we can evacuate by sea. The rebels probably won't push further north after taking Freetown." William agreed. "Barney, have the remaining Death Squad members launch Blackthorn drones in rotation. I want to know the exact time the rebels get into the city. Also arrange for a boat to be on standby offshore near the base. If you can't rent one, buy one." He turned to Antonov. "Do any of your men know how to pilot a boat?" "Of course, boss. Not just boats, we can pilot anything with an engine. A few of the team could even fly fighter jets." "You're really desperate for money, huh?" William said with a dry smile. He told Antonov to leave 12 of his strongest, fully armed fighters behind to wait with them. The rest should head to the base. "Instruct your men not to engage anyone unless threatened. This isn't our country. Our mission has nothing to do with the government or the rebels. Don't interfere." "Understood." Antonov breathed easier. He'd been worried William might suddenly decide to play the righteous savior. He picked up the radio and passed orders. The temporary base began going into readiness. 2 hours later, worse news came. Barney's contact said Freetown was unlikely to hold, and they should be ready to leave the city at once. The rebels would enter no later than the day after tomorrow. 2 more days was a relief to William. As long as the rebels didn't take the city today, he had time. He sent Barney and Antonov to handle their tasks, then strolled to the balcony with a glass of wine, staring out at the sea and thinking. Once the mining area was found, should he have those 2,000 Southern mercenaries occupy it first, pretend to be miners and mine guards, and wait for General Jet Froby's forces to walk into a trap? If they didn't ambush and sneak attack, William feared those temporary mercenaries would be easily routed by Jet Froby's men. Timing mattered. Too early, and news might leak to Jet Froby. Too late, and there wouldn't be time. Whatever it took, William decided he would eliminate Jet Froby. He couldn't let him go free and retaliate later. New toy, Hind helicopter. Dusk fell, and William enjoyed a seafood dinner on the balcony. During the meal, he had already received 2 encouraging calls. Christmas reported that the mining area had been located. a circular valley about 12 kilometers north of the village Solomon had mentioned. Christmas and his team had even scouted the area briefly before returning. Yuri Orlov had also called to say he'd found people to take William's mission. Over 400 men were already moving toward Kolo City. Yuri joked he had paid only 400 AKs and a basic load of ammunition. In exchange, he'd purchase any diamonds mined at 10% above market and continuously supply weapons. That was enough to unite several large tribes under Yuri's banner. William didn't care how much profit Yuri made. He only wanted to bleed Jet Froby's manpower and ammo. Whether those mercenaries lived or died was not his concern. Everything was ready. Now they only had to wait for Danny Archer. The next morning at 10, William was woken by a knock. Barney and Antonov stood anxiously at the door. "Boss, the rebels are only 10 kilometers out. We have to retreat." "Damn it," William swore and asked, "Is everything packed?" "We're packing, boss. We'll leave in half an hour." "Good. Get moving." William washed up and changed. 15 minutes later, he came downstairs and slid into the Mercedes G55. As the convoy filed out of the side gate, he rolled down the window and saw Solomon standing by the hotel. He nodded. Solomon nodded back. William smiled and closed the window. Until they re-established contact, Solomon would have to look after himself. The convoy followed the Blackthorn drone's feed, avoiding checkpoints and heading north. 5 kilometers out, Christmas, Caesar, Gunnar, and Gonglu stayed behind to keep watching Freetown with the drones. William had not shown the Death Squad's equipment to the Polar Bear Squad. He didn't want them to know the Blackthorn drones could be controlled by a Devonshire-style helmet. Small drones were advanced, but not beyond being copied. Without seeing the Blackthorn's exact specs, Antonov's men were unlikely to try to steal the idea. An hour later, they reached the temporary base. William walked toward 3 Hinds sitting on the tarmac. He'd been eager to fly one. These were D-model Hinds, advanced attack helicopters with a long combat history. To the astonishment of Antonov and the others, William climbed into a cockpit. After a Russian pilot gave him half an hour of instruction, William started the Hind. Barney, pale with concern, shouted for the pilot to occupy the weapons cockpit. With everyone watching nervously, William lifted off, circled a few times, and landed smoothly back on the helipad. He hadn't performed any reckless stunts. The flight had been controlled and steady. Next, the pilot taught him the weapons systems. Then they switched seats. William fired more than a dozen rockets at a mountain and emptied the machine gun into a slope, then instructed the pilot to return to base. He stepped down laughing, much to the silent, irritated exasperation of the others. He promised a sea trip and a big feast once the mission was completed. They shook their heads. They'd hoped to keep him from flying again, but William paid no heed. Still, everyone was impressed and relieved he had landed cleanly on his first flight and hadn't lost his head. Chapter 149. After lunch, William pulled the same pilot who'd flown that morning back into the Hind. He took the controls himself this time, flying the gunship for more than an hour before returning to base. Back on the ground, he immediately pulled the pilot aside and spent another half hour going over every movement and procedure, pointing out improprieties in the flying technique. Halfway through the debrief, Barney rushed into the conference room. "Boss, the rebels have entered the city." William didn't look up from his notes. "Tell Christmas to grab all his gear and the solar charger and tail Solomon. Warn him if there's danger, but don't get involved." He sounded casual, detached. The government rebel fighting in this country mattered to him only insofar as it affected his mission. If it hadn't been for the diamonds in Sierra Leone and his need to move first against Jet Froby, he wouldn't have come to a place so chaotic. Barney sighed and left the room. He went straight to the Daredevil team's equipment room and picked up a headset. Christmas was piloting a Black Phoenix drone about 5 kilometers outside Freetown. Barney keyed the mic. "What's the situation in the city?" "God, it's hell," Christmas replied, voice tight. "Both sides don't care about civilians, shooting everywhere. The rebels are almost at the hotel where Solomon is hiding." "Remember why we're here," Barney said. "We're mercenaries. Outside the mission, this country's problems aren't ours. Don't interfere." There was a pause on the line before Barney added, "The boss doesn't care. He's still reviewing the hind flight with the pilot. He wants you to follow Solomon and warn him if it gets dangerous, but don't do anything else. Especially don't cause trouble, understand? Christmas exhaled. Got it. I got too close, sorry. Good. Stay alert. You're near the fighting. Anyone approaching Solomon? No. Gunnar and Highway are on watch. Caesar and I have 2 Black Phoenix drones up. My drone is on our perimeter. Caesar's is outside the hotel. I'll tell you if anything moves. After William finished his consultation with the hind pilot, Barney's voice came in over the walkie on his hip. Boss, you should see this. We've got someone trying to talk to Solomon. William cut the briefing short and headed to the team's monitoring room. Barney handed him a helmet with video and audio feeds. William put it on and heard the slightly anxious voice of a man through his earpiece. Hey Solomon, remember me? We met the day before yesterday. Excuse me, sir. Please step aside. I'm working. Solomon kept his eyes on the task, juggling 2 suitcases and 2 handbags. He didn't want to be held up. Let me help you, Solomon. The man reached and took the handbags from under Solomon's arm. My name's Danny Archer. I can help you sell diamonds. How about a 50-50 split? Solomon stiffened but gave a non-committal shrug. I don't know what you mean. If I had diamonds, do you think I'd still be standing here working as a doorman? You planning to sell them yourself? Archer said, spinning a practiced smile. Listen, selling diamonds isn't simple. Finding a safe buyer, knowing market values, you could sell something worth $100 for one. I've been in this business 8 years. I have safe buyers, and I know the prices. Most important, I won't double-cross you. Solomon thought, you're the one I'm worried about. He ignored the man and pushed his luggage into the storage room. To keep the conversation private, he opened the side door and walked out of the hotel. Archer followed hurriedly as gunfire cracked in the distance. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Solomon, the rebels have entered the city. If they catch you, you won't survive. I got you out of prison before. I can help you find your family. Solomon stopped and stared. You can find my family? Of course. Archer practically beamed. I've got white contacts. Money gets things done. First, we find the diamonds. Do you take me for an idiot? Tell me and you'll kill me, Solomon said lowly. He turned to leave, but Christmas's voice cut into his ear. Solomon, hurry. Rebels behind you. Solomon glanced back, then took off running and shouted, The rebels are coming! Get out of the city! Archer grinned and ran after him. With Christmas guiding them by drone feed, Solomon led Archer away from the combat zone and north out of the city. Once clear, Solomon stopped and turned to Archer. If you can help me find my family, I'll take you to the diamonds. Do we have a deal? Of course, Archer said without hesitation. Let's go to Lungi. I can make calls there, pull some strings, find your family. 3 days later, after scrambling through dangerous pockets of fighting, Archer, Solomon, and a female reporter reached Kono, the city closest to Solomon's hometown. Archer, who wasn't entirely without scruples, used the opportunity to find Jet Froby at Kono City Airport to request help rescuing a pastor who'd been shot. After the rescue, though, Archer and Solomon slipped away from the airport and headed for the mining area. Christmas, still tailing Solomon, relayed their movements to William and kept a few kilometers behind the 2 men. Antonov, who had arrived in Kono 2 days earlier, was hidden with more than 80 men of the Polar Bear Squad outside the airport, monitoring Jet Froby. Their job was to quietly take over the airport after Jet Froby and his men left, deny him reinforcements. When William learned Solomon and Archer were heading for the mines, he sent a message to Yuri Orlov to move his hired men into the mining area. He ordered them explicitly, "Don't kill miners or children, otherwise, do as you like." 2,000 men with AKs showed up. Faced with overwhelming force, the armed personnel at the mining site surrendered without a fight after a brief call to lay down their weapons. Afterwards, 300 men remained hidden among the miners, pretending to be workers, and 200 posed as overseers. The rest of William's men, along with most of the miners and workers, everything except the owner, retreated 2 kilometers into the woods and valleys, avoiding roads and open ground to wait for Jet Froby's men. When Solomon and Archer finally approached, they found the mining site transformed. From a hilltop, Archer scanned with binoculars and cursed under his breath at the sight of more than 200 men with AKs. Makeshift defensive fortifications had sprung up. None of the overseers or miners Solomon recognized were there. The old leader, who used to sit in front of the office building, had been replaced. Wooden crates lay everywhere, their purpose unknown. The whole place felt wrong. Archer's greed snapped into panic. With that many guards, sneaking in to dig for diamonds was impossible. He watched, grumbling and calculating, and after an hour realized he couldn't get Solomon into the site without help. Reluctantly, he reached for his phone to call Jet Froby. Solomon kept watching too, but his attention wavered between the strange new defenses and the absence of children. His chest tightened. The quiet made him both hopeful and anxious. No children in the pits might mean Dia was alive somewhere else, but Solomon had no idea where. Then Christmas's voice came through his earpiece, and Solomon's world shifted. "We found a child," Christmas said. "Name's Dia. I asked for the parents' and sisters' names and confirmed it. He's yours." Relief flooded Solomon. He hadn't expected to find his son so soon, and now knowing Dia was alive eased the weight on his shoulders. Christmas went on to explain the larger picture. The mining area had been fortified to push Archer into calling Jet Froby, lure Jet into the mine with the lure of diamonds. The heavy guard was bait. Hearing Archer on the line with Jet, Solomon felt the last step of his plan falling into place. Soon he could take his wife and children out of the war and away from this place. But joy came mixed with anxiety. Archer had been useful. He'd saved Solomon on the road, helped rescue a pastor, and had spent an evening helping search for Solomon's family. Despite Archer's motives, Solomon didn't want him to die. Archer finished his call and handed the binoculars back. "So, did you find him?" he demanded. Solomon smiled weakly. Then Archer frowned and handed the binoculars back. "Wait, where are all the women and kids?" he said after a minute. "There aren't any children or women in this mining area." The question hung in the air, sudden and dark. The mining camp's silence, the substitution of men, and the presence of so many armed guards had been meant to trigger a reaction. Archer had taken the bait and called Jet. But why, Solomon wondered, were the women and children gone? Chapter 150. Something felt wrong, and Archer's nerves went taut. Up until now, he'd been focused only on how to sneak into the mining area. The matter of the child had distracted him, and suddenly everything clicked into place. Why were all the workers in the mine adult men? Why were the idle people not being beaten or scolded? Why were they building fortifications? Was someone else going to attack? No, he had to warn Froby and get more men. Before he finished the thought, Archer felt a pistol pull from his waist. He rolled over and sat up just in time to see Solomon pointing the muzzle at him. A cold sweat broke out over Archer. When he had snuck up earlier, he'd already taken the safety off and chambered a round. The gun needed only a squeeze. Archer raised his hands cautiously, a mixture of pity and disbelief on his face. "Solomon, we're friends. What are you doing? Don't forget where we are. If you shoot, neither of us gets out. I saved you. I helped you find your wife and daughter. Put the gun down and let's talk. I promised to help find Dia. We're companions." Solomon listened, remembering everything they'd been through. He didn't want Archer dead, but he wanted even less for Archer to ruin William's plan. His wife and children, and the $3 million William had promised, were all at stake. Solomon tightened his grip, took a few steps back to keep distance, and leveled the pistol. "Throw the satellite phone over here, Archer. I don't want to hurt you. Stay down and don't move. I'm saving you." "Saving me?" Archer blinked. Solomon, suddenly calculating and careful, tried to keep him at arm's length. Archer's temper flared. "Saving me? With a gun? Were you using me the whole time? Playing crazy so I'd lead you through the war zone? You never meant to split the diamonds, did you, Solomon? I was stupid trying to help you find your family. I should have suspected you when we left the city. If you were really just a fisherman, how did you get us out of Freetown without a hitch?" As Archer rose, Solomon retreated and stuck the gun out to stop him. "Get down, Archer. Don't try anything. I don't want to hurt you, but I'll shoot if you move. My mission is done. All I need is to wait. Don't force me." "Mission?" Archer froze, looked into Solomon's eyes, and reluctantly crouched. "What mission? What could possibly involve me? I'm just a nobody, Solomon." "No, the mission is about you." Solomon's voice was tight. "The moment you made that call, Everything was set in motion. I'm sorry, Archer. The diamonds were sold the day after you found me. I knew Jesse and the kids were in the Taxon camp, and I was told Dia has been found. My job is over. I don't want you dead. You're a good man, but lie there and don't move until this is finished. Solomon's insistence that he didn't want to kill him finally relaxed Archer enough to lie down. So it was a trap. Everyone in the mining area is your team, and the target is Jet Froby. Yes, throw the satellite phone here, Archer. If the plan is exposed, my whole family dies. You have no idea how powerful the people who want to deal with Froby are. From the first contact, they were in control. The helicopter pilot who took us to the Taxon camp was one of theirs. Do you know why Jesse happened to be by the barbed wire as soon as we arrived? Archer's heart sank. He shook his head. When we arrived, the soldiers around were paid off. Someone told Jessie to go there to deliver things. She was protected and watched the moment she entered the camp. Our moves have been monitored the whole time. You're lying, Solomon, Archer said, bristling. I've been tracking since I was 10. I can follow anyone and lose anyone. I didn't see anyone following us. Solomon tapped his ear and his belt. They didn't have to follow us. There's a receiver in the heel of my shoe, a tracker and a microphone in my belt, and an earphone in my ear smaller than a grain of rice. Do you know how much that earphone costs? Archer didn't know whether to believe him, but facts forced the truth on him when several fully armed men in black helmets and armor appeared on a rise a dozen meters behind Solomon. Solomon added, that earphone alone costs more than $100,000. You can do nothing, or you can work for my employer. If you cooperate, you won't have to die. Maybe you'll get some money. Seeing the black armored men standing there, Archer thought, if they were hostile, they'd have opened fire already. Their restraint meant these were the people Solomon spoke of. Archer couldn't help but grin. He stood, put distance between himself and Solomon, and took a few steps toward the men. Hey, he called, ignoring Solomon's shouts. You don't need to go through all that to take out Froby. Give me the money and I'll do it. I only need 10 million and Froby's dead by tomorrow. I started fighting him when I was 19. 12 years of this. I'm one of the few left who can get close. He trusts me. Solomon, seeing the newcomers for the first time, had initially pointed his gun at Gunnar. Christmas, one of the men, stepped forward. Put the gun down, Solomon. We're on the same side. The voice struck Solomon like a memory, the voice that had safely led him out of Freetown, that had guided him, that had told him Dia had been found. He lowered the pistol and, with a sudden rush of hope, asked, Can I see my son, Dia? Christmas pressed a button on his helmet. An electronic voice came through the external speaker, distorted but clear enough. Not yet, but your son is safe. We'll take you to him after this is over. Solomon's shoulders slumped with relief. Christmas walked up to Archer. As for you, Mr. Archer, he said, how many men are at Kono Airport? Archer smirked. What's in it for me if I tell you? I did all the work. Shouldn't I get something? I made the call that got Froby to move his troops here. You can live, Christmas replied. His tone was flat. The implication was clear. Cooperate and survive. That the funniest thing I've heard. Do you think if you let Froby die today, we'll let you walk away? Even if Froby is dead, his men won't let everything go. Archer ground his teeth. I want money, lots of it, to run away somewhere no one can find me. I can even be your informant and lure the men out of Kono Airport. When they all leave, they'll be vulnerable, and I can get out of the country. Christmas was skeptical. How do we know you won't warn Froby with code words? He trained you. He taught you to fight and to trade diamonds. Why should we trust you? Because he protected me only as long as I brought profit, Archer snapped. 70% of what I made went to him. He couldn't trade diamonds himself. He used me because my background was clean. I earned money for him for 6 years. I've paid what I owed. If Froby were so great, he wouldn't keep bleeding people like us dry. Christmas chuckled, not entirely believing him. Talk is cheap. Maybe we'll believe you after you personally take down Froby. Stop making excuses. Tell me about the airport. If what you say is valuable, my boss won't be stingy. Archer harumphed. How do I know you're telling the truth? I don't even know who your boss is. He pouted theatrically. Tell me an account. I'll give you proof. $1 million for the info. A harsh electronic laugh echoed through the helmets. It pricked at old resentments. Archer hated Froby all the more. Christmas motioned the others down the slope toward a secluded hollow. Two Mercedes G550s sat waiting. Christmas pulled a large duffel from one of the cars and dropped it near Archer. "There's about 4.9 million in here. Help us lure the men out of the airport and it's yours." Archer hurried to unzip the bag. Seeing stacks of US bills, he felt the solid reality of it and relaxed. He tucked a few wads into his hand and smiled. "No problem. I can lure them out. I know Froby's comm code. I can fake a message." He thought for a moment, then added, "There's a hollow behind the grassland at the north gate of the airport. When Solomon and I escaped, we found it. Perfect ambush spot. Send coordinates to the airport saying Froby's calling for backup at that hollow. If we block both ends of the approach, the men inside won't be able to get out." Christmas considered him for a long second, then gave a curt nod. Around them, the black armored team settled into position. Solomon, holding the satellite phone, watched both men, the one he had trusted and the strangers who now held his fate and his family's, in a silence that felt like the calm before a storm. Chapter 219, Closing the Net. "Excellent, Archer. The money is yours, but if you want to live to spend it, you'd better pray what you said is true. Don't worry, I want those people dead even more than you do. It's been a pleasure working with you." "Same here," Christmas said, shaking Archer's hand. Solomon, standing nearby, watched in disbelief. He had never imagined Archer, the man Solomon had always thought of as decent, wishing all his former companions dead. After the agreement with Archer, Christmas received a call from Antonov in Kono. The mercenaries at the airport were preparing to move, around 400 or 500 men. Hanging up, Christmas frowned. How can they send so few? Doesn't Froby have over 1,000 men under his command? "You don't mobilize 1,000 men for every operation," Archer said. "Do you know how expensive it is to support that many soldiers every day? Only an idiot would gather them all without a clear mission. And to keep casualties low, Froby will try a sneak attack with the Hind before the ground assault." Christmas nodded. They already knew a Hind was at the airport. So how many do you think are still at the airport? Archer considered the tents and layout. "I can't be exact, but judging by what I saw, it can't be more than 600 people there. So maybe 200 left actively at the airport, plus technicians and medics, so no more than 100 combat-ready men." "Probably," Archer said, unsure. Christmas relayed Archer's estimate to Antonov, and they waited. 4 hours later, the Black Blade reconnaissance drone returned video. Froby's team was 10 kilometers from the mining area, and Froby himself, at the airport, had boarded the Hind and was heading toward the mine. Christmas passed the information to William, who had been waiting. William loaded the remaining men at the base into 3 Hinds. The base was 180 kilometers away from the mine. At top speed, they could be there in 40 minutes. William sat in the co-pilot's seat of one Hind, checking weapon systems. When everything was green, the 3 Hinds, loaded with ammunition, pushed toward the mining area hard. Froby's Hind arrived, and the attack began, but not the way he'd expected. The miners endured the Hind's bombardment and strafing without backing down. 10 minutes after the helicopter exhausted its ammunition, the miners, despite heavy losses, opened fire on Froby's ground mercenaries from prepared positions in the mining pits. Without aerial support, the mercenaries started suffering heavy casualties. From his cockpit, 20 minutes into the engagement, Froby realized the mine was a trap. Panic flashed across the comms as the miners revealed weapons hidden in wooden boxes and returned fire from cover. Froby pounded the cockpit in fury. "Damn it, Archer! Retreat! Retreat!" On a nearby ridge, Christmas and 3 others had been alternating control of the Black Blade. The moment Froby's forces broke, Christmas alerted William, who was waiting a few kilometers out. William ordered his men forward. From a kilometer away, the 3 Hinds fired 6 missiles at Froby's now unarmed Hind. 2 missiles struck the helicopter, which exploded in midair. With Froby dead, the battle tipped decisively. William's Hinds strafed and bombarded the remaining mercenaries, while over 1,600 fighters with AKs closed in from all sides, and snipers from the mine added pressure. After half an hour of fighting and suffering roughly 50% casualties, Froby's remaining men surrendered. At the airport, with Archer's help, the rest of the mercenaries were lured out. Antonov and his polar bears, at the cost of about a dozen casualties, annihilated the more than 100 encircled mercenaries. After a brief rest, Antonov's men stormed the airport and occupied Kono with no resistance. William kept his hind squad in the air for another half hour. He didn't trust the African mercenaries on the ground. Once Christmas, Caesar and Solomon found the diamond, and Gunner and Highway, with Archer, confirmed nobody survived in Frobby's helicopter. William collected the 6 of them and ordered the hinds to return to Kono Airport. He didn't much care what became of Frobby's surrendered men. Archer warned that the southern tribes had a custom of leaving no survivors, and these fighters, hired years earlier to fight those tribes, would not be spared. 20 minutes later, the hind squad landed at Kono. To William's surprise, the airport seemed normal, no signs of struggle. Medical staff and some original employees acted composed. Barney took his men to secure the facility, while Christmas and the others stepped off the aircraft, removed their gear, and joined William along with Solomon and Archer. Solomon handed William the diamond. William held it to the sun, then casually tossed it to Archer, who watched with envy. Solomon stared. "I don't understand, sir. You spent so much effort and money to get this diamond, and you just gave it away?" William didn't answer directly. He looked at Solomon, the big man who'd braved bullets for his family, and laughed warmly. "Solomon, thank you for risking your life. Your mission is complete. You don't need to know the rest. It won't help you. Go." He nodded to Caesar and pointed at a hind being refueled. "The pilot and Caesar will take you to find your son. After that, Caesar will get you to Switzerland. Your wife and daughter will be sent there too. Once you arrive, someone will meet you at the Swiss National Bank. You'll get passports, an account with $3 million US, and a small hotel in the Iron Cross Mountains as a home base. I've stayed at that hotel. Think of it as a reward for your service. Take care of your family, and good luck." Solomon was overwhelmed. Tears springing to his eyes, he clutched William's hand. "Thank you, sir. I'll never forget this. I'll be your loyal friend forever. Please come visit when you can. My whole family will welcome you." Then, without warning, Solomon hugged William. William held his breath against the smell of sweat, embarrassed but moved by the sincerity. He patted Solomon's back. "All right, Solomon, let go. I accept the invitation, but if you don't let go, I'm going to start swearing." After Solomon released him, William ruffled his hair. "It's the first time a man hugged me, and I didn't push him away," he joked, easing the sadness of parting. Solomon apologized repeatedly, then hugged Archer in thanks too, promising to meet them in Switzerland. He climbed into the hind with Caesar and looked back 3 times as they lifted off, heading north to find his son Dia. Chapter 220, Aftermath. Watching the helicopter disappear, William silently hoped Dia could be pulled out of the darkness and given a fresh start. He'd considered settling Solomon's family near Oxford Castle. After all, Solomon had risked everything, and his family's loyalty would be guaranteed. But thinking of Dia, a child forced into terrible things, William abandoned that plan. He didn't trust people who had killed or used drugs, no matter the coercion, but he wished Solomon's family a better future. William turned to Archer, who looked tired and unsettled. "Fancy a walk, Archer?" "Of course, sir," Archer replied, hoisting a large backpack full of money and following William. The bag was heavy, about 40 kilograms, and the contents made Archer's shoulders sag. William laughed. He steered them onto the grass. "I heard you were trying desperately to get the diamond so you could leave Africa. Now you've got the diamond and almost $5 million in cash. What next?" Archer cradled the bundle. The bag was a burden to William, but a treasure to the man who needed money most. Despite his relief, Archer stayed humble. When William spoke, he looked embarrassed. "Don't joke, Mr. Devonshire. The diamond isn't mine. It's yours. Someone like me shouldn't own it." He pushed the diamond back toward William. William smiled and shook his head, which unsettled Archer further. "Sir, I never wanted it. A flawless 100-carat pink diamond could fetch 10 to 20 million on the black market. Auctioned, maybe 70 to 80 million, perhaps over 100. I'm very content with these 4.9 million. William didn't take the diamond. He looked at Archer's serious face and asked, "Do you want to earn another 5 million? 5 million? Archer blinked. "May I ask what for, sir?" I heard you know some of the key people in the diamond trade. Yes. Over the years, many of General Frobby's diamonds were sold by me to Mr. Simmons and Mr. Van Dyke at De Beers's London office. William smiled at the names. He'd been listening. Those two are the head of the Diamond Alliance, aren't they? Yes, sir. Archer's unease grew as William's smile widened. Heh. Solomon risked his life mostly for his family, so for him I had to make an exception. For you, Archer, I have a different offer. Do me a favor. Deliver the diamond in your hands to Mr. Brewer Simmons at De Beers. Can you do that? Chapter 152. Do I get a chance to say no now, Mr. Devonshire? Archer shrugged helplessly, looking at Christmas, Gunnar, and Caesar, all dressed in tight combat gear with their hands resting on their holsters. William laughed. I like smart people, and I like people who are willing to pay. Everything is about money. It saves me a lot of trouble. So, Archer, how much is your life worth? How much is my life worth? Archer cursed inwardly. Of course, it's priceless. But from the moment William asked, he knew there was no backing out. He didn't dare gamble on whether William might silence him. If he were William, he would have done it without hesitation. Selling his life to someone else was a bitter pill, but after a long internal struggle, Archer gritted his teeth and said, 15 million US dollars, plus the proceeds from selling this diamond to De Beers. Everything goes to me. No problem, Archer. I thought you'd ask for 100 million. 15 million is fine. Consider it a deal. William shook hands with the indifferent Archer. This gentleman will accompany you to London. Once this matter is finished, I'll arrange a new identity for you, and if you wish, you can work for me. Goodbye, Mr. Archer. William nodded at Christmas and left with Gunnar and Highway. Christmas said to Archer, Come with me, Mr. Archer. One warning, if you don't want the Continental Hotel hunting you down, follow the boss's instructions. Once this is over, the boss might even give you a bonus. Oh, and this lady is currently in London. You might see her there after everything's settled. Archer looked at the photo of Maddie Bowen on the microcomputer on Christmas's left forearm, and warmth spread across his face. Don't bother her. Even if I die, I'll make sure your plan doesn't go smoothly. Heh. Don't worry, Archer. Maddie Bowen means nothing to us. As long as you finish your task, we guarantee not to bother her. That said, as far as we know, she's organizing your notes. She might publish a report she can't handle. Archer, you wouldn't want that, would you? Fuck, Archer thought, remembering the notes he'd given Maddie, and a sense of urgency rose in his chest. Let's go, buddy. We have work to do. I hope we can see Mr. Simmons in London within 10 hours. Heh, no problem. Christmas removed his gear and changed into civilian clothes. An hour later, a private jet landed at Konoe Airport. Christmas and Yin Yang, carrying 2 sets of Black Blade drone equipment, took Archer and flew to London. Watching the plane climb, William took out his phone and called Felix, his private consultant at the Swiss National Bank, instructing him to gather the traders he'd worked with before and have them standing by. Then he called Brian and Sam in America, telling their team to go to Switzerland at once to keep an eye on those traders. Everything had to be handled the same way it was months ago in Switzerland. No one was to contact or interact with the outside world until the matter was closed. After those calls, William, Gunnar, and Highway went to find Antonov. They met him in the airport medical area. William asked, "How are things?" Antonov's expression was somber. 5 killed, 3 seriously injured, and 7 lightly wounded. 2 may be permanently disabled. You were ambushed. How did you end up with so many casualties? William asked, staring. Alas, we haven't fought in several years, and training suffered for lack of funds, Antonov said helplessly. The 3rd Squad's sniper failed to take out the enemy heavy machine gunner on the first shot. In those 10-odd seconds, we lost 3 dead and 2 seriously injured. And the others? William pressed. Of the remaining deaths, 1 was a fire support specialist blown up by an enemy RPG. 1 of the seriously injured was hit in the neck by a stray bullet. Antonov hesitated. And the last who died was the sniper who missed the machine gunner. After speaking, Antonov excused himself to tend to the wounded. As soon as he left, Gunnar said, "Boss, that sniper was definitely killed by their own people. Saying he was killed by the enemy is just a way to get some money from you for his family." William wasn't surprised. Such things happened in the mercenary world. There were few who, like Antonov and his men, would directly confront someone who caused a teammate's death, especially when it wasn't intentional. William didn't care much either way. Once this mission was done, the polar bear squad would go home. He didn't need such a large force now, and he wasn't the sort to keep them on payroll out of sentiment. Better to settle accounts and send them away. Gunnar, how many times have you and your team fought Solomon in the past few days? William asked. Gunnar thought a moment. 2 small-scale skirmishes plus today, that makes 3. So I owe them an $8 million payout, $6 million as a combat bonus, and $2 million as employment fee. At the figure, Gunnar blinked. Boss, those 2 small fights barely count. They were just a dozen or so bandits wandering around. William shook his head. It was agreed before. Backing out now would be dishonorable. On average, that's $80,000 per man. If we try to short them now, some disheartened man might turn his gun on us. Get Antonov to give me every account number in the team. It's dangerous to carry cash here. We'll transfer it. Gunnar and Highway nodded. William's caution made sense. The polar bears were hired hands. With a huge pile of cash in front of them, nobody could guarantee one of them wouldn't try to grab it all. As for the dead and seriously injured, let's give $200,000 and $100,000 respectively. Minor injuries get $30,000, William calculated. These guys aren't cheap. Hiring local cannon fodder only costs $1,000 each. Fine, let's make it around $10 million. The extra $490,000 will be considered money for a feast for the polar bear squad. Gunnar and Highway exchanged looks. When the boss was generous, he was generous without blinking. When stingy, he was stingy to the bone. Despite the sniper's mistake, the polar bear squad, 80 men, had annihilated a force of over 100 with less than 15 casualties and no more than 6 dead. It was a strong showing. If not for the sniper, there might have been no deaths or serious injuries at all. William took out his phone to call Yuri Orlov. The equipment the Hund and the polar bears had swapped was no longer useful. William, not wanting to waste it, planned to ask Yuri if he would recycle it and settle accounts. The phone rang a long time before someone answered with a recorded message. Hello, this is Yuri Orlov. I'm currently unavailable to take calls. I'll call you back later. Thank you. Hanging up, William wondered if Yuri had been arrested. He'd warned that man before. How could Yuri still be leaving that message? William, Gunnar, and Highway went to find Antonov and his men to settle up. Inside the tent, William stood on a table, clapped loudly, and announced the compensation for the dead and wounded. The polar bears erupted in cheers. They'd come to make money after all, and their employer had paid in full. They shouted, "William," and many of them quietly wept. Some were still resentful of the teammate who'd made the mistake, but gratitude to William was strong. It took over an hour to transfer the funds. As William walked out of the tent amid cheers, his phone rang. Yuri was calling back. Sorry, Mr. Devonshire. A bit of trouble here just now. Is your business finished? Any instructions? My business is finished. What happened on your end? William asked, wary. Yuri laughed. Don't worry, Mr. Devonshire. It was small. The people I sent to Liberia were caught smuggling some diamonds when they returned. The Small Arms Proliferation Group invited me for coffee. But it's fine now. Smuggling diamonds won't stick to me. Those fools don't understand that without freelancers like me, someone like Benjamin Arthur, the U.S. Comptroller, couldn't move as many weapons as he does. Jack Valentine doesn't even realize who's behind me. I don't sell as many weapons in a year as Benjamin Arthur moves in a day. After a scolding from the military chiefs abroad, they still had to let me go. William said nothing more and hung up. He didn't believe Yuri was entirely off the radar. Some things were better left unspoken. Half an hour later, William received a text from an unknown number. 3 Heinz, complete set, 9 million. 100 sets of equipment, 1 million. Shipping to Liberia, 1 million. Heh. Yuri was greedy. The Heinz, unused for days, had dropped in value by 6 million. If sold to Andre, Yuri could probably flip them for 15 million. William texted back, 15 million, including delivery. A few minutes later, Yuri replied, okay. William chuckled, pocketed his phone, and asked Antonov to select crews to fly the Heinz to Liberia to deliver the equipment. 3 flight crews for $600,000. Antonov agreed without hesitation. Their current location was less than 300 kilometers from Andre. At full speed, the flight would take about an hour. After Barney finished haggling with the Sierra Leone chiefs and settled subsequent matters, Barney, Gunner, and Highway, with their equipment, boarded the Hinds and went to the temporary base to meet Thor and fly to London to assist Christmas, Yin Yang, and Archer with De Beers. William boarded the private jet that had been waiting for half a day and flew directly to Oxford. As he stepped off the plane, Gareth Mallory of the Security Council called, asking William to meet him at the council to discuss Jet Frobe. William replied without thinking that he had no time. He didn't want other matters now. After so long, all he wanted was to go home, see his mother, and sleep. He exited the arrival gate, got into the pre-booked car, and headed for his ancient castle. Chapter 221, Settlement. This chapter continues the settlement aftermath actions. William was already in settlement mode. He'd arranged the Polar Bear Squad's pay, handled the equipment deals, and ensured the Hinds would deliver on time. There was little more to do here. The men would be paid, the wounded tended, and the Hinds would be on their way. When the transfers finished, Antonov and his men dispersed to tend to their wounded and to prepare the helicopters. William received messages confirming the transfers had gone through and that the polar bears were satisfied. It was the sort of tidy, efficient ending he liked. No lingering debts, no unfinished business. Yuri's deal went through as planned. The Hinds and equipment would be transported and flipped. William had never been sentimental about redistributing military hardware. If it kept people alive and paid the bills, then that was enough. With that done and his affairs here wrapped up, it was time to go home. Chapter 22. Back to the castle. William was eager to transport the treasure he'd found in New York back to his castle. Thinking of that fortune filled him with excitement. After so much running around and bargaining, the thought of bringing those assets home, seeing his mother, and finally sleeping sounded like heaven. He drove toward his ancient estate, ready to get some rest and enjoy the fruits of a difficult, costly mission. Chapter 153. Although his net worth now exceeded $10 billion, none of the numbers in his bank account or stock portfolio compared to the shock of seeing physical gold and jewels spread out before him. What nagged at William was that he still hadn't decided where to hide the treasure. Keeping it in the basement didn't feel secure enough. The sum was so vast, he worried the Americans might suddenly order a search of the castle, and then he'd be caught red-handed. When he returned to Oxford Castle and stepped out of the car, he saw his mother coming out as well. At the sight of William, Lena's face brightened. Then she immediately pretended to be cross and marched back into the castle with a mock huff. Inwardly, she scolded him for being a scoundrel, gone for months at a time, leaving her alone. Since he had become successful, he rarely stayed more than a few days. That hurt because William was her only child. Still, ever since she learned he could inherit the title, Lena had been living like a woman reborn, tidying the castle, planting flowers, and raising horses. William apologized profusely, and at lunch he doted on her, arranging her plate, pouring her wine, serving her food. That finally softened Lena. After the meal, forgiven and beaming, she refused to let him nap. Instead, she dragged him out to the stables to show him an Arabian horse she'd bought a few days earlier. Seeing his mother so happy, William didn't spoil it. The two walked toward the stables, chatting and laughing as Lena gushed about how beautiful and nimble the purebred Arabian was when it cleared hurdles. When they emerged from the small wood, William stopped. The stables had been completely transformed. Lena laughed at his surprise. "You've been away so long, I needed a hobby," she said. "And with all the money you gave me, I didn't know how to spend it. I bought a horse and expanded the stables. There are 12 stalls at the front now, space for more than 20 horses. The other 3 sides are left for future expansion if the mare's foal. I even built a racetrack behind the stables. Oh, do you know how much the little farm next door, over 300 acres, cost? Less than £800,000. 800,000? William was startled. That cheap? Has land dropped that much? Lena smiled. Yes, son. Many farmers are nearly bankrupt. If it's a cash sale, they'll sell and move. Didn't you say you wanted to buy up the surrounding land? Now's a great chance. William had long wanted to buy land. The price was already low. Though it might fall further, waiting wouldn't gain much, and the struggling farmers meant he could buy large tracts at a discount. Yes, Mom, I'll tell the Swiss bank to handle it. Buy whatever land we can. Lena's eyebrows shot up. Buy everything? There's already 3,000 acres around the castle, and if you include the land by the river opposite, that's tens of thousands of acres. That's a lot. Farmland, not pasture. How many people would we need to employ? The city might even block such a purchase. William considered the area around the castle, then smiled. Tens of thousands is too much, but buy as much as we can. Definitely the 3,000 acres that surround the castle. I want the land around us to be the private property of the Devonshire family. It will be better for our safety and privacy. Lena beamed. 3,000 acres is definitely doable. We can sign a contract tomorrow. The owner lost a lot investing in the stock market and even came to ask me a few days ago when you would be back. He's desperate. £5 million should be enough. 5 million. William's memory disagreed. Anthony had told him it was 8 or 10 million. I thought it was more like 8 or 10. That's true in better times, Lena said. But who else would buy here now? Those who won't bother with this countryside. Those who care can't afford it. A month ago, he tried to raise the price. Now he's the one begging. William did the math. 5 million for 3,000 acres, less than £1,700 an acre. He smiled. Even a modest rise in value over the next decade would be significant. He thought of Tara in Gone with the Wind. Land was something worth fighting for because it endures. Stocks are fleeting, but land is tangible, perpetual in England. The more land you own, the more influence you have. Voters, public resources, livelihoods. He decided then and there to buy as much as practical, even if he had to pay a bit more later. I'll call Anthony and have his law firm coordinate with the Swiss National Bank. Mom, take me to see your new horse. If we buy these 3,000 acres, we'll be worthy of the Devonshire ancestors, Lena said proudly, patting his head. They all belonged to our family before your great-grandfather. I'm so proud of you. Pulling him toward the stables, she jabbered about the horse. William followed, amused by her excitement. The new stables were on another level compared to the old ones. He didn't walk far before he saw a completely black Arabian stallion and stopped, stunned. The horse was breathtaking. Arabian horses are among the oldest breeds in the world and were the first to establish studbook registration. Their light, compact build gives them strength, speed, and remarkable endurance, making them masters of long-distance races. They're also intelligent and people-friendly, good companions, and competitive in disciplines like dressage and show jumping. This 3-year-old stallion, Lena had nicknamed him Devonshire II, had a sturdy frame and a powerful gait. He loved human company, nudging the fence and nuzzling Lena when she arrived. She laughed and opened his stall. The horse came out, wagging his tail, pressed against her, eager to roam. William, do you want to try him? She asked. William hesitated at the name more than the horse. No, Mom. Let him be yours. Arabian horses are beautiful, but a bit small for me. I'm more drawn to akhal-teke horses, the legendary sweat-blooded horses from the East. There are fewer than 3,000 left in the world, mostly in Turkmenistan. Some say British thoroughbreds descended in part from akhal-teke bloodlines. Remembering the legends and his own fondness for akhal-tekes from his previous life, William imagined owning a stud of them. Their rarity promised future value as well as personal enjoyment. The thought of owning dozens, more than most wealthy collectors, thrilled him. He told his mother he'd contact professional brokers to buy good akhal-tekes while prices were low. Before he could step away, Lena produced a phone number. No need, she said. I have the phone of a top agent. They're the largest horse trading company in England. Devonshire too came from them. Tell them what you want, and they'll send a catalog and videos, even bring horses to the estate for you to inspect. It's all one stop. William called the number. After a few beeps, a pleasant voice answered. Hello, this is Darley Stud. Hello, I'm William Devonshire. I want to buy some akhal-teke horses. Do you have any in England? Devonshire? The Devonshire of Oxford? The receptionist was unexpectedly excited. Are you Mr. William Devonshire? William grinned at her reaction. Yes, that's me. I'd like newly adult or nearly adult horses. Strong conformation, preferably chestnut, only Akalteke. Understood, sir. We'll prepare information and videos and send a specialist to your estate. We can be at Devonshire Castle in 2 hours. Is that convenient? Perfect. I'll be home all day. Don't disappoint me, he said. Thank you. See you in 2 hours. He hung up and watched Lena ride Devonshire 2 on the new track. The Arabian's proportions were exquisite, though on the small side, around 1.46 meters on average, with the tallest near 1.52. For the 1.9-meter tall William, that was short. Akaltekis weren't much taller, only a few centimeters more, but that didn't matter. He loved them, and given their rarity, he believed their value would rise. He stayed at the fence for an hour as his mother rode. When Devonshire 2 finished and was still sweating, Lena handed him to a professional trainer. Her affection for horses was plain. On the walk back to the castle, Lena chattered about how she'd wanted a horse since childhood and how she had selected Devonshire 2. William listened happily. Back at the castle, Lena went to wash while William sent word to the servants. Anyone asking for him was to be shown to the living room. With nothing pressing, he went to the back garden, sat in a round chair, sipped coffee, and read the day's newspaper. Half an hour later, a servant told him the Darley team had arrived, impressively quick. William smoothed his clothes, followed the servant into the house, and entered the living room. A middle-aged man and 4 or 5 well-dressed men and women stood up and smiled at him. Chapter 154. William took a few steps forward, extended his hand, and said, "Welcome, everyone. I'm William Cavendish." The middle-aged man shook his hand briskly. "Hello, Mr. Cavendish. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Luther Daly, general manager of Daly Stud." He handed over his business card. William accepted it, and after greeting the others and taking a seat, glanced at the card. "A family business?" Daly smiled. "Yes, Mr. Cavendish. Our family has been in the horse industry in England for over 200 years. One of the 3 foundation sires of the thoroughbred, the Darley Arabian, belonged to our family. We've been in this business for generations. You could say we're one of the most experienced racing families in the country." When William heard that, he understood. This unassuming middle-aged man had deep roots in the industry. No wonder Daly Stud was one of the biggest names in English racing. The Darley Arabian was legendary. Along with the Godolphin Arabian and the Byerly Turk, it formed the basis of modern thoroughbreds. Any serious breeder would know that. "I've heard of the Darley Arabian," William said with a smile, "but today I'm looking for an Akaltek. Does your family deal with Akaltekes as well?" "Of course," Daly replied. "We don't deal only in English thoroughbreds. We handle the 3 major lines: English thoroughbreds, Arabians, and Akalteks. May I ask why you're interested in Akalteks?" "They're not known for short-distance speed, and there aren't many of them. Not many English buyers go for Akaltekes." William shrugged. "Precisely because they're rare. The Akalteke is revered in the East as a heavenly horse. It's been celebrated for 2,000 years. They're unique, and I find them the most beautiful. If I like it, I'll buy it." Daly and the others brightened. Horse sellers loved buyers who chose on taste rather than price. But with 2 decades of experience, Daly kept his tone measured. "Thank you for considering Daly Stud. I guarantee you'll be satisfied, Mr. Cavendish, but I should mention, Akalteks don't usually do well in short sprints." "Thanks for the reminder. I'm aware of the basics," William said. Daly's face lit up. "Good. Aside from that, they're an exceptional breed, slim, elegant, with a metallic sheen to their coats, especially the golden Akaltek. When it runs and sunlight strikes it, it's dazzling. You'll love it." He gestured to an assistant, who handed him a few photographs. Daly offered them to William. William looked. The photos showed a golden Akalteke gleaming in the sun, its head and neck long and refined, limbs elegant and powerful. He fell for it at once. "I'll take this one. How much?" he asked. £640,000, Daly said. William blinked, surprised. That price actually struck him as low. He'd heard of thoroughbreds costing hundreds of thousands or even millions, with some reaching tens of millions. A purebred, exceptionally beautiful Akalteke for £640,000 seemed like a bargain. Daly noticed his reaction and hurried to explain. "Mr. Cavendish, this mare is one of the finest golden Akalteks to come onto the market in recent years. Gold is the most prized color, then dark bay, black, and light gold. We bought her in Turkmenistan for £500,000, and even at that, £640,000 is a fair market price. We didn't inflate it for our first meeting. William waved his hand. He didn't think it expensive. He thought it cheap. If top-quality horses were available at these prices, he might buy several for his estate. Fine, he said. I'll take her. But tell me, why are Akaltekas priced lower than English thoroughbreds? Aren't they one of the rarest breeds? Daly relaxed and smiled. You might be thinking that rarity equals high price, but racehorse value depends on performance. Only horses that achieve results command high prices. Many thoroughbreds, Arabians, or Akaltekas, without race records, sell for just tens or hundreds of thousands. Akaltekas rarely show top results in short-distance races. Their strengths are endurance and desert racing. They only produced champions in a couple of top-level races in 1986 and 1995, which proved their potential. But the very best Akalteks are often kept in Turkmenistan, not sold. Owners there prefer to keep their best bloodstock rather than let them compete abroad, so the top-tier horses rarely reach the market. Also, being an Asian breed, they haven't had the same market demand in Europe and America. Without broad market support, prices stay lower. That made sense. The best horses simply weren't available for sale. In this era, with no high-profile buyers snapping them up from abroad, Akaltekas remained undervalued. William was secretly pleased. If he could acquire the best available horses now and breed them over the next decade, building up a few hundred Akaltekas at his estate would give him something to be proud of. Can't I buy a top-tier one at all? He asked. Daly looked regretful. I'm sorry, Mr. Cavendish. Not really. Unless you buy a large number and breed them yourself, hoping to produce a champion, the real top-tier animals won't be sold. The 1986 and 1995 champions were bred and raised by their owners. All right, show me the rest, William said. He was prepared to spend the money. Daly produced a catalog and handed it over. William paged through it. The horses were beautiful. Many would make excellent riding mounts, even if they weren't exceptional racers. Prices were mostly in the £300,000 through £380,000 range. On the last page, a chestnut caught his eye and refused to let go. This chestnut was exactly the sort of Akaltek William had long wanted. He'd read that chestnut or sorrel horses, when sweating, could show vivid localized color changes that looked almost like bleeding, and he had always wanted a chestnut Akaltek as a mount. The listing said this horse was taller and sturdier than most Akalteks, shoulder height 156 centimeters versus the usual 152 centimeter, which intrigued him. Daly, is this a true purebred Akaltek? He asked. Daly beamed. He had been certain William would like the chestnut. Absolutely, Mr. Cavendish. Its pedigree is genuine. We have a full pedigree chart. It's as pure as an Akalteke gets. William laughed. I like it. Chestnut, the best color. He closed the catalog, thought a moment, then tapped the cover. Very good. I'll take all of these. Daly was delighted. His long game had worked. He had brought horses that weren't stellar racers, but were beautiful and desirable, perfect for a newcomer like William. First-time buyers often cared more about appearance than speed. Once a wealthy newcomer owned impressive mounts, it wouldn't be long before ambitions for racing followed. Daly had priced things to entice William. He had even offered the golden mare at a favorable price as a courtesy to win him over, and he made only a slim margin on the chestnut, which they'd purchased in Turkmenistan for £550,000 and spent 3 months training and testing. Selling it for £780,000 put him around break-even after costs. What Daly didn't know was that William had no plans to buy English thoroughbred racers. His interest in Akaltekes came from memories of home. Still, the notion of acquiring a batch of top-grade Akaltekes and breeding them himself appealed to him. If he could amass a few hundred in 10 or 15 years, he could boast about it everywhere. William smiled to himself at the thought. If a champion happened to appear along the way, so much the better. Chapter 155. Dolly, who had been calculating silently, smiled and said, Mr. Devonshire, we'll deliver these 2 stable horses to your manor tomorrow morning. It's an honor to serve you. From now on, if you have any needs regarding horses, call me directly and we'll take care of everything. As soon as Dolly finished, William burst out laughing, leaving Dolly momentarily taken aback. William stifled his laughter and corrected himself. Apologies, Mr. Dolly. What I meant was, I want all 5 Akalteke horses listed in this catalog. From now on, if you come across any good Akalteks, notify me first. I adore Akaltekes and plan to raise dozens, maybe even hundreds, at my manor. I'm thinking of buying the whole 3,000 acres around here to build a dedicated Akalteke breeding farm. To me, they're the most beautiful horses in the world. You're really going to build a horse farm? Dolly exclaimed, then became ecstatic. A professional breeding operation capable of raising dozens or hundreds of horses wasn't something that could be set up with a mere 10 or 20 million pounds. This was big business. If William entrusted the project to Dolly's company, Dolly Equine would not only make a substantial profit, but also gain prestige. It was the kind of opportunity that might not come around for years, maybe decades. Yes, an Akalteke farm, William continued. It's a new idea, but I want top-tier stock. If I can't buy them, I'll breed them myself. I don't believe that with enough money I can't produce a top-tier Akaltek. Money solves a lot of problems. I'll throw money at it until I get what I want. Mr. Dolly, I hope you can make this happen. The horses I buy must be at least as good as those in this catalog. Your task is to find dozens of high-quality Akalteks. If you can find the best, price won't be an issue. Dolly dared not imagine top-tier Akaltekes in his wildest dreams, but how much would 100 high-quality animals cost? He calculated quickly, at least 30 million pounds. The main worry was sourcing that many quality horses, but compared to the farm project, purchasing them was a minor matter. His hands trembled with excitement. He resolved to seize the opportunity. If they landed the horse farm contract, Dolly Equine would be busy for a year or two with guaranteed profit and minimal risk of default. No problem, Mr. Devonshire, Dolly replied. We'll make it happen. We have decades of relationships with breeders in several countries. I can fly to Turkmenistan myself and send teams to Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan to select horses. We'll also provide horse farm design plans for your reference and assist with anything related to the farm. William wasn't bothered by Dolly's enthusiasm. Anyone would be excited by the prospect of a large deal, but he wanted to be sure about stallions and quality mares. Calm down, Dolly. As long as you can meet my requirements, I'll work with your firm. By the way, do Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan also have Akaltekes? Dolly took a breath. Yes, Mr. Devonshire. Besides Turkmenistan, there are breeding farms in Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan. Turkmenistan has about 2,000 horses, but buying there is hard. The farms in Russia, Kazakhstan, and Uzbekistan together amount to roughly 1,000 horses. They've been trying to breed Akaltekes in recent years, but buyer demand is low and the businesses are struggling. If they knew someone wanted to buy such a large lot, they'd be thrilled. Some might even sell their breeding stallions. William smiled. Money isn't the problem for me, but I don't want to be taken advantage of. Consider buying these horses a test for you. If you satisfy me, the farm project might follow. Of course, Mr. Devonshire, Dolly said quickly. He knew the farm was the real prize. Long-term cooperation would mean sustained profits for years, not a single windfall. William continued, I'll pay in full for good horses. Your commission will be 10%. I'll hire professional appraisers and accountants to accompany the purchase. How much you earn depends on whether you can find horses that meet my standard. Any questions, Dolly? Hearing the commission amount sobered Dolly. For ordinary Akaltekes, a 10% fee might be acceptable. Those could be bought from large farms and shipped by sea without special handling. But William wanted the caliber shown in the catalog. Such horses required one-on-one care, specialist transport, possibly private jets and specialized vehicles, and connections to pry them out of breeders' hands. Dolly asked, Mr. Devonshire, for ordinary Akaltekes, I could accept 10%, but for the level you want, a catalog standard, I must ask for more. Considering professional care, transport, and the effort to secure these bloodlines, 25% is appropriate. William bristled inwardly at the profiteering, but he also understood that top-quality horses were scarce and that connections mattered as much as money. After a moment's thought, he compromised. 15% for those in this catalog and 20% for any that are even better. You're buying dozens. Figure out how to source akaltekas of that quality. If you fail, your company won't handle the farm construction or future cooperation. Dolly felt the pressure, but he had to deliver. He planned to buy simultaneously from multiple producing regions to stay discreet and to try to assemble dozens of high-grade animals, perhaps even 100 if he stretched things. Akalteke prices were currently depressed. Most buyers only chased champions in Europe and America, so horses still available in their native regions often went overlooked. A worrying thought crossed his mind. If William bought up a large share of the market, he'd control a significant portion of the high-grade akaltekes. Could that be William's intent? Dolly briefly considered buying the horses himself, but dismissed it. He wasn't as wealthy as William, and investing tens of millions into breeding was risky. Moreover, horse farms wouldn't sell all their best stock to a single buyer, and there would always be good horses in future years. In the end, Dolly decided to act as middleman. Even 2 or 3 million pounds in commission would be a huge payoff for his firm, and successful handling of the farm project could lead to management contracts and long-term income. Mr. Dolly, William added, I want the acquisitions done discreetly and simultaneously. I don't want prices spiking because opportunists got wind of it. If prices shoot up, I'll cancel the deal. Of course, Mr. Devonshire, Dolly replied. We're professionals, excluding akaltekes already on the racetrack. I estimate there are about 40 to 50 registered high-quality akaltekes currently for sale. Buying them at their registered prices, about 10 million pounds, should secure roughly 30 horses. Since your primary aim is breeding, you won't need many stallions, buy mostly mares. We'll stagger purchases and complete them before the market reacts. If you relax your standards, it might be possible to buy up to 200. William knew he couldn't buy every good horse at once without causing market disruption. He planned to buy this initial batch and then slowly acquire more, depending on market conditions and Dolly's sourcing. Buy this first batch, he said. For future purchases, I want to see the market and the horses you provide. Contact my private lawyer, Anthony. He'll draft the contract and arrange for someone to accompany your team to monitor prices. He gave Dolly Anthony's number and called the lawyer, briefing him on the requirements and instructing him to send someone to oversee the transactions. Then William wrote a check for 2.2 million pounds to Dolly. The 5 akaltekes were now his. Thank you, Mr. Devonshire, Dolly said, beaming. We can deliver the 5 horses to you the morning after tomorrow. I'll handle the acquisitions to your satisfaction. Now, I'll go see Lawyer Anthony. Goodbye, Mr. Devonshire. Goodbye, Dolly, William replied, watching them leave the castle. Chapter 226 finalized. After seeing Dolly and his party off, it was nearly 6 p.m. His mother had already asked the servants to prepare dinner. William sat in the hall watching the news and chatting with her while they waited. As for the horse purchases, he no longer worried. Dozens of akaltekes for about 10 million pounds was a small matter he could entrust to Anthony. Yoshida Law Firm's expansion and its merger with a large accounting firm had turned it into a broader financial group, so it had the resources to handle the deal. After dinner, William bade his mother good night and went to his study. He shut the door, sat at his desk, and began sketching and writing. After much thought, he decided to hide the Knights Templar treasure in his own castle for security. But there was far too much treasure in New York to fit into the basement, and if his mother discovered it, she would be alarmed. He'd never be able to explain where so much wealth had suddenly come from or how it had been moved into the house. He spread out plans and made notes, considering how to conceal the bulk of the collection without causing suspicion. Chapter 156. I couldn't tell my mother these items had been brought through a portal. William would never reveal the secrets of the system and of magic to anyone, not his mother, not his wife, not his children. Since the basement wasn't secure and he was even more uneasy about leaving anything outside the castle, his only option was to create an independent storage space. He could teleport, he had storage space, and he knew various magics. He could simply carve out several parallel passages alongside the castle's old escape tunnel to stash his treasures. He had actually considered digging a deeper basement beneath the existing one, but the river near the castle made that risky. What if water seeped in? The escape tunnel had been dry for centuries, though, so if he dug several parallel cavities along its line, the risk would be minimal, and digging sideways was much easier than digging down. Pleased with the plan, he went to the basement, humming to himself. He entered the password, authenticated his fingerprint and iris, and stepped inside. The big construction project was about to begin. He pulled everything from his storage space into the basement, opened the mechanism to the escape tunnel, and walked in. Concentrating on the tunnel wall, he reached out, thinking, absorb. He hadn't expected it to actually work. A half-meter hole opened in the wall. After trying a few more times, his storage compartment filled with rocks and soil. William laughed aloud when he looked at the roughly 1 cubic meter hole in the wall. Now he only had to find a safe place to teleport the excavated soil. With satellites constantly imaging the surface, he wasn't foolish enough to open a portal directly into the open wilderness. The glow could be spotted. Being cautious made sense. Finding an abandoned mine in England wasn't hard. There were coal mines abandoned for over a century, a dozen kilometers from the castle. After the coal was gone, those shafts had been left to rot. He brushed the dirt off, left the basement, and drove toward the mining area. Half an hour later, he reached the abandoned pits. He drove his Land Rover along the old mining area, scanning mentally for over an hour. Once he confirmed the place was empty, he found a large mine shaft and drove in. After a few minutes down the shaft, he located a spacious tunnel. "This is it," he said, delighted. He set the teleport coordinates, turned his car around, and exited the tunnel area. As he left, an earth elemental spell collapsed the mine shaft entrance behind him. He listened for a while, and hearing no further collapses inside, drove home satisfied. Back at the castle, he hurried to the basement, closed the heavy door, opened a portal into midair in the mine tunnel he'd chosen, and dumped the soil from his storage through it. The effect was perfect. He grinned and thought, if anyone ever provokes me, I could just throw them into this mine. If they don't suffocate, they'll starve. Having found a place to get rid of the spoil, William began the miserable work of excavation. He dug for 3 hours that night, opening a passage 2.5 meters high, 3 meters wide, and 2 meters long. As he dug, he used earth elemental magic to reinforce and harden the tunnel walls and floor. Exhausted mentally, he collapsed onto the compacted dirt floor. Looking at the 2.5 meter height, he realized some of the antiques in the New York Hall were 3 or 4 meters tall. Never mind, he thought. He'd bring home the gold, jewels, and smaller items first. After his mental energy recovered, he checked the time. It was already 1 in the morning. When would he finish digging? He decided to sleep and deal with it tomorrow. He went to his room, took a hot shower, and fell asleep. The next day he slept until 10. He yawned as he walked downstairs and asked the maid to prepare a simple breakfast. "Where did my mother go?" he asked. "Madam left for Oxford University at 8, sir. I heard Miss Tina is applying, and Madam went with her to the admissions office." "Ha, that little Tina getting into Oxford probably bought her way in," William muttered, then waved the maid away. "I'll eat by myself." "All right, sir. Call me if you need anything." After breakfast, he strolled the garden, thinking of the New York treasure, then steeled himself and went back to digging. He worked until 5 in the afternoon and stopped, assuming his mother would be back soon. He stripped his dirty clothes, showered, put on a clean outfit, and sat in the shade with a cup of coffee to wait. Half an hour later, his mother and Tina returned, laughing as they stepped out of the car. Seeing William lounged in the shade sipping coffee, Lena complained, "You're home and you didn't even come shopping with me. What were you doing hiding in the basement last night?" William waved to Tina. "I wasn't doing anything, just organizing some documents. By the way, Mom, what did you do at Oxford today?" Tina stood very ladylike beside her mother, smiling and nodding. William watched her curiously. Has this girl taken the wrong medicine or fallen for someone? He wondered. Seeing his stare, Lena shot him an irritated look. "Tina wants to follow in your footsteps, so of course she needs to study more." "Is that so? Tina, you're still young. It's good to learn more." He paused. "Can you really get into Oxford? I can find you tutors." Tina's cheerful smile vanished, and she glared at him. "Humph, William, you underestimate people. Don't think you're the only smart one. I'm not talking to you anymore, Aunt Lena. Let's go have dinner." She pulled her mother toward the main castle, scowling at William as they left. The next morning, right after breakfast at 9, a call from a Darley Company representative told him his newly purchased horses had arrived. William was delighted. He grabbed his still unaware mother, put her on the golf cart, and headed to the stables. 2 horse trailers with attached boxes sat in the lot outside the stables. Darley stud staff and his own trainer hurried to greet them. Lena understood why he had dragged her here as soon as she saw the trailers. She glared at William and demanded, "Why did you buy so many at once? How much did you spend this time?" Heh, not much. Only 2.2 million pounds. 5 Akalteke horses, William said. Seeing his mother's puzzled look, he explained, "Akaltekes are known in the East as sweat-blooded horses, Mom. One of them is a special gift for you. You'll love her when you see her." Lena, who had been poor for so long, still preferred practical spending. She didn't care for one-wear clothes or flashy items, but she had spent nearly 3 million pounds furnishing the old castle without hesitation. She wasn't stingy, she just spent on practical things. Seeing 5 horses purchased at once, she frowned. 2.2 million is not much? Can't you be more sensible? It's just the 2 of us at home. Do we need so many horses for show? William ignored her scolding and whispered, "Mom, do you know how much I've made outside in the last few days? I made more than 2.2 million pounds in 15 minutes. So don't worry about money anymore. Start thinking about how to spend it." How much? 2.2 million in 15 minutes? Lena's interest shifted from the spending to the amount he'd earned. She narrowed her eyes. "Do you want a beating, William? I'm not good at math. Tell me." William chuckled. "I have 7.2 billion US dollars in cash and probably over 10 billion in stocks. I haven't checked the market these days, so I'm not exactly sure, but even if it drops, it won't drop much. The market's nearly at rock bottom." Seeing his mother cover her mouth and stare at him in disbelief, Waki regretted saying it. Did I scare Mom? He wondered. Lena slapped his hand away from her forehead, then cupped his face and pulled him down. Her eyes sparkled. "How much did you say? Say it again, I didn't hear clearly." "Over 10 billion US dollars, he repeated cautiously. Lena burst out laughing and twisted his cheeks. "That's fantastic, my child. You're amazing. So you've been making $200 or $300 million every day?" William rubbed his reddened cheeks. "Of course, I'm William Devonshire. So, Mom, from now on, when you buy things, you don't have to worry about the price, just whether you want them." "Haha, what you buy is none of my business, but I won't have to worry about running out of money in your card anymore." She beamed. "Very good, son. Now call our lawyer and tell him to buy back those 3,000 acres. I want all the land around the old castle returned to the Devonshire family today. Hurry and call Anthony at Moonstar Firm. I don't want to wait another moment. Understand, William Devonshire?" All right, Mom. Let go of me. I'll make the call right now. I'm 20, not 5. Please stop pinching my cheeks." William complained, rubbing them as Lena released him with a chuckle. He rolled his eyes, then called Anthony and arranged matters about the land purchase. As they talked, Lena suddenly pushed him aside and stared at a golden horse being led from a trailer. William felt a pang of helplessness. When he was a child, his mother would kick him away if he blocked her view of a soccer match. History was repeating itself with this golden Akalteke. He wondered what name she'd give the horse and silently hoped it wouldn't be something like Devonshire III. He sighed and thought of soccer. If his mother knew he was about to become the owner of Chelsea, she would be ecstatic. Given her passion for the club, she might spend the 300 million pounds he had in the Bank of England in a few years. He realized he needed a capable manager to prevent her from randomly splurging on players she liked. He didn't mind spending, but he didn't want to be taken for a fool. When the Bay Akalteke was let out, William's attention was drawn immediately. He approached the horse and admired it, a perfect 1.61 meters tall, with a slender head, high neck, a long sturdy body, and powerful limbs. It looked more robust than a typical Akalteke. The trainer calmed the slightly restless animal, then gestured for William to touch it. The horse lowered its head, rubbed against his shoulder, and neighed, willing and trusting. The trainer smiled. "Mr. Devonshire, it seems you have a strong connection. This is the first time it's voluntarily shown affection toward a human. It never let anyone near except me, and even then it was difficult. Haha, so we really do have a connection. I fell in love with it the moment I saw its picture, William said, hugging the horse's neck and stroking its mane. What was this horse called before? Chapter 157. Red tail wing means it's so fast people only see its tail, the trainer explained. What a ridiculous name, William muttered, patting the horse's neck. No wonder it ignored you all. From today on, you'll be called Red Hair. The staff around him looked displeased at the clumsy new name, but Red Hair gave a quick nod, clearly pleased. The Darley stud trainers were astonished. This horse was unusually affectionate toward William. William laughed and patted it again, told the groom to saddle it, vaulted up, and with a sharp, "Giddy up!" Red Hair took off. The man and horse streaked away. The Darley stud trainer gaped. Good heavens, how can it be that fast? Mr. Darley is going to be furious. This horse didn't run full out at our trials. William knew exactly why Red Hair responded to him. Before he'd approached, he'd cast a proximity spell. Animals' senses are often more acute than humans. Red Hair detected William's aura and recognized it as beneficial. Within moments of meeting, the stallion had leaned into him, resting its head on William's shoulder. It mounted willingly and carried him off at top speed. They galloped around the castle for over 20 minutes. The red hair along Red Hair's neck was soaked with sweat, and its coat had a deeper, blood-like sheen, an encouraging sign. William slowed it to a steady trot, and placing his hand in its mane, cast a healing spell. Seconds later, the horse's breathing evened out. To William's surprise, the healing magic also replenished stamina. The spell took effect silently, and with a whinny Red Hair surged forward again, leaving the trainers dumbfounded. After sprinting and then trotting briefly, the horse could go full out once more, showing no drop in speed. It ran for nearly 30 minutes before finally slowing. William trotted it for another 10 minutes and then led it back to the stables. As soon as he dismounted, trainers from both Darley Stud and his own rushed forward, vying for the reins. Professionals know a great horse when they see one. Red Hair's lack of exhaustion after such exertion marked exceptional stamina, and its speed suggested real race potential. They estimated it could cover a kilometer in roughly 70 seconds, perhaps faster with training, close to the Alteque record of 67 seconds. No Akalteque had been recorded under 68 seconds in recent years, and Red Hair was still nearly 3 years old. There was clearly room to improve. With that combination of speed and endurance, it might even handle long-distance tests like the 20,900-meter St. Leger in September. The two unknown trainers saw a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and neither wanted to let it slip. William handed the reins to his own trainer, Neil Jordan. Neil was a stout, seasoned man in his 60s with 40 years of experience. He'd worked at stables near London in his youth and at a mid-sized stable in Oxford later. Because the Devonshire family had employed several generations of his family, William's mother had once poached him with 15 times his previous salary. Despite his age, Neil looked healthy and sharp. Under his care, the horse Devonshire too had been improving steadily. Given the choice, William naturally trusted him. Train it first, William told Neil. Find an opportunity to test Red Hair's speed and stamina formally. If the results are good, I'll consider racing it. Understood, boss, Neil said, taking the reins. Red Hair snorted when a stranger approached, pawing and glaring as if to warn him off. William soothed the horse and gestured toward Neil. When I'm not here, he'll look after you. The horse was smart. With William's reassurance, it accepted Neil and allowed him to lead it toward the stables. A few steps later, Neil turned back. Boss, we've taken on 5 new horses and our staff is thin. We'll need more stable hands. Should I recruit or partner with other firms for trainers and jockeys? For trainers, coordinate with Darley Stud, William replied. For stable hands, hire locally first. If we can't find suitable people, recruit from the wider market. Darley will be sending dozens of horses in a few days. Recruit for 50 horses to start. Pay rates should match other stables near Oxford. Got it, Neil nodded. William preferred hiring locally to strengthen the Devonshire family's ties in the area. Many of the locals' families had long served the estate. He planned to buy the 3,000 acres around the castle and convert much of it into stables, pasture, and farm. Mechanization had already reduced farm labor needs, and when workers lost jobs, some would welcome stable positions. He'd offer work, but only if people could do the job properly. William listened as Neil walked toward the stables and thought about the complexity of horse breeding. Thoroughbreds and racehorses demanded high-end facilities, skilled trainers, grooms, and veterinarians. Diets could be fussier than a human family's. Beyond pasture, the horses needed corn, oats, carrots, fruit, even oil and salt. Many stables blended feeds to meet individual needs. After a training session, a horse required careful post-work care. Safely remove tack, loosen the girth, take off leg wraps, pick out hooves, a 10-minute fast trot on a long rein, followed by a 5 to 10-minute slow trot, water walking to cool tendons and joints, then a bath, brushing, and thorough drying. The best stables were practically palaces, living quarters better than 5-star hotels. It was tiring to think about, but William smiled inwardly. Magic worked on animals. If he used it to boost the physical condition of his best horses by just 5 to 10 points, a good horse could become top class. In racing, mere seconds or fractions of a second matter. A small enhancement could turn prospects into champions. With magic as an edge, the likelihood of producing winners would rise, and the value of his horses would climb. But he knew he had to be cautious. He didn't want wildly obvious miracles. If every horse suddenly posted world record times, questions would follow. His plan was to breed more Acaltechus. More quality horses would spread out success, so a champion didn't stand out as inexplicable. For now, red hair alone was enough to establish the stable's reputation, and William intended to credit Darley Stud's eye for horses. When the Darley trainer approached to speak, William cut him off. "If you want to stay, talk to Neil. If he approves, you can stay. Tell him I want the best of everything here. If my accountant and 3 independent industry experts sign off on the budget, I don't care. If it costs £10,000 a month per horse, I'll pay it. I want the best. Understood?" The trainer balked at the figure. The annual cost per horse alone would be around £120,000, not counting facilities and labor. Seeing Neil's calm reaction and knowing the boss's reported wealth, the trainer's eyes brightened. Skilled people want a patron who won't nickel and dime them. Neil, always shrewd, smiled but set a stern tone. "Whether you stay depends on ability. Devonshire Castle stables and red hair are the only hope I've seen in my 40-something years. I won't tolerate useless people. Pass my test and I'll make you my assistant. If red hair succeeds, there'll be bonuses and chances to move into management. Understood?" The trainer flushed with excitement and agreement. Neil felt reinvigorated. If red hair became a champion, his reputation would soar. He barked orders to the small team, sharp but inspiring, and they set to work caring for red hair with renewed energy. For them, this horse was the beginning of something big. Chapter 158. Seeing a chance for fame and fortune, no one wanted to be the one. Old Neil kicked out, so everyone set to work with gusto. Lena, smiling, rode her golden Acalteche through the arena, practicing maneuvers and glancing proudly at the edge, watching her. Now that her son was a billionaire, Lena finally relaxed. She liked to imagine that the money William had earned in 2 days dwarfed the £300 million in her own account. After 19 years of sacrifice raising him, didn't she deserve to spend his money now? In the last hour, she had already decided. She would buy everything she had only dared to dream about before, possibly even Chelsea, if it only cost 100 or 200 million pounds. If William knew she was thinking like this, he would probably laugh and say women were born to shop. An hour earlier, she had been worried over 2.2 million pounds. Now she was planning how to spend 300 million. William didn't mind. His mother had worked hard to pay for his university, taking 2 jobs to make ends meet. If she wanted to spend, he'd encourage it. To him, money was more a number than anything else. Over $4 billion in cash spread between London and Swiss banks, and stock holdings exceeding $10 billion. He didn't spend much personally, so why shouldn't his mother? Besides, Debus would bring more big returns soon. Even if Lena spent $1 billion a year, his assets would likely outpace that growth many times over in the coming decade. Having someone in the family willing to spend would keep the money from being just numbers on a balance sheet. A ring cut through his thoughts. William pulled out his phone. "Hello, this is William Devonshire," he said, slightly annoyed at the interruption. Anthony, on the other end, heard the tone and hurried to be careful. "Hello, Mr. Devonshire. Sorry to disturb you. Should I call back later?" "Go on," William grunted. "We've negotiated with the landowners around the castle. The 3,000 acres are priced at £6 million. They're firm and want it paid in full today. If we wait a few days, we might get a discount, but right now they won't budge. Pay them £6 million. Transfer today. That's an order from my mother," William said. "No problem, boss." He hung up, waved at his mother, and shouted that the land purchase was done. Overjoyed that William had bought the land around the castle, Lena rode over and, from her high perch, ruffled his hair. "Well done. I'll cook your favorite for lunch as a reward. While I'm practicing, go check the land documents so you don't buy blindly. Now scram! Don't get in my way." William watched his mother ride back to the center of the arena and sighed. "She's always like this. Orders me about, then sends me away." He shook his head and decided not to tell her yet that he could soon buy Chelsea, let her savor the possibility for a few days. With nothing better to do, he drove the golf cart back to the castle to review the land documents Anthony had sent. After a grand lunch personally prepared by Lena and a meeting with Anthony to sign the check and the agreement, William napped and then returned to his minor routine. By day, he inspected the new land. By night, he continued his subterranean work. A few days later, he dug a passage 25 meters high, 3 meters wide, and 20 meters long, and reinforced the floor and ceiling of the treasure chamber with magic. Once he was confident everything was secure, he donned a prepared stealth suit that concealed him completely. Opening the portal, William sent his mental power through to probe the Trinity Church treasure room in New York. After confirming no anomalies, he stepped through. He checked both exits and found the warning enchantments he'd placed earlier were intact. Satisfied, he released 5 or 6 light orbs, bathing the chamber in careful illumination. Seeing the treasures again made his pulse quicken. Gold, silver, and jewels felt fundamentally different from cash. They were real, tangible wealth. Banknotes couldn't compare. He surveyed tens of thousands of square meters of treasure and worried how long it would take to move everything by himself. Fragile antiques, parchment books, oil paintings were too risky to touch. They might crumble on contact. Professional moving equipment would be necessary for those, but he dared not buy such gear openly, and even acquiring it on the dark web felt unsafe. He decided to postpone transporting fragile antiques and focus on what he could move alone: gold bars, coins, and jewels. He went to the gold storage. Hands trembling slightly, he ran his palm over the piles of bars. There were 8 pyramid-like stacks, each over a meter high and 1.5 meters wide. The bars were stamped with weights, each marked 400 ounces or 12.5 kilograms. Counting through the first pile, he reached 1,600 bars, 20 tons of gold in one pile. 8 piles meant 160 tons of gold in total, 20 tons more than Henry's diary had recorded. Had the Knights Templar found a gold seam in America centuries ago? Or was much of it plundered from local tribes? Early natives often treated gold as ornament rather than currency. Trade accounts sometimes described swapping a steel knife for a chunk of gold the same size. Whatever the origin, the extra 20 tons made William elated. "Who cares where it came from?" he thought. "It's mine now." At current rates, 160 tons was worth well over $4.8 billion, more than his bank balance. This was family wealth beyond anything else. It took several hours and 8 or 9 trips for him to transfer all 12,800 gold bars into his storage space. Gold's density meant that, spread out, the pile measured only about 16 meters long, 2 meters wide, and 0.25 meters high. He deliberately avoided stacking it too high in case the floor of his castle's chamber couldn't bear the weight. After a short rest, William went back to New York to collect jewelry. He found a dozen or so stacked jewelry boxes and moved them one by one. It took him half an hour to bring all 14 boxes home. He arranged them in the remaining 4 meters beside the gold pile. Opening one box, the gems flashed so brilliantly he felt his chest tighten. He used his mental power to open the rest, but kept his touch cautious. Too much excitement might destabilize his focus. The jewels were dazzling and numerous. He lifted a ruby the size of a thumbnail, then closed the boxes by hand and stepped into the escape tunnel to steady himself. After a few deep breaths, he calmed down. He decided not to tell Lena about the full haul yet. There was little point, and it would be hard to explain how he'd obtained everything. Instead, he planned to give her a few choice gems over time, so she'd grow accustomed to them and not be overwhelmed. He repaired and disguised the breach between the treasure chamber and the tunnel with magic until his scans detected no difference. Still uneasy, he walked the escape tunnel for over half an hour. When he was 100 meters from the exit, he used earth magic to seal it, intending to inspect that exit thoroughly before using it again. Back in the basement, he changed clothes, wrapped the ruby, locked the basement, and went up to the main floor to surprise his mother. That evening, over dinner, William produced a small gift box during dessert. "Mom, I have a present for you," he said, handing it to Lena. She accepted it with delight, though her motherly practicality surfaced. "Your taste is odd. That Patek you bought before was too formal for everyday wear. This box is so small. It isn't jewelry, is it? Don't buy things on a whim. If I don't like it and can't return it, it's wasteful." William smiled confidently. Having lived 2 lives, he knew how irresistible gemstones could be. "I promise you'll like this one. And if you don't like that watch, keep it. Tomorrow I'll have the Patek manager bring catalogs to the castle. Pick a few, or have their designers make 7 different ones so you can wear a different watch every day." Lena scolded with mock severity. "Even with the money, you shouldn't be wasteful. That watch cost $3 million. She covered her forehead. "I must be insane. Before I'd have been thrilled with a $3,000 watch. William, you told me you made $2.2 million in 15 minutes and hundreds of millions in a day. Of course I'm thinking big. I even thought of buying Chelsea with the card you gave me." "Buy Chelsea?" William looked up. "Good idea. But about the present, since you brought it up, I won't hide it. Chelsea will be ours very soon." Lena shot to her feet, eyes wide. "Say that again. Did you say Chelsea?" "All right, don't get too excited," William laughed. "I was planning to give Chelsea to you for your birthday. In June, I did a deal with Duke Devon and bought 11% of Chelsea's shares from him. Then, while I was in America, a friend helped acquire the remaining shares. It won't be long before Chelsea belongs to the family." He didn't go into the messy details of how the shares had been collected. Telling her the full story would only worry her. For now, it was enough for Lena to know that, soon, Chelsea would be her new possession. Chapter 159. However, William's worries were completely unfounded. Lena didn't care how William acquired Chelsea. Given his wealth, buying the heavily indebted company would be a piece of cake. What mattered to her was when she could take control. She paced back and forth, practically vibrating with excitement. "God, this is a surprise. I never thought Lena DeVenture, would have a day when I could take charge of Chelsea. William, tell me, when can we take over Chelsea?" "Soon, Mom. A full acquisition can't be rushed. I promise we'll get Chelsea eventually. It will belong to you. Being too eager now will only let that old man Bez demand an exorbitant price and fleece us." Lena nodded at William's words. You're right. I mustn't be impatient." Her joy lasted only a moment before a grin that was almost a leer crossed her face. "What should I do, child? I'm too excited. I can't calm down at all." Seeing his mother's mixed expression, William chuckled. The solution was simple: distract her. He picked up the gift box from the dining table and handed it to her. "Open it. Trust me, Mom. When you see what's inside, you'll forget all about Chelsea." "Really?" Lena eyed the box suspiciously. When William nodded, she took a deep breath and gingerly opened it. The ruby inside immediately drew her in. Its red glow was hypnotic. She covered her mouth with her left hand to stop herself from shrieking. Looking at William, then at the gem, she motioned for him to lower his head. William's mouth twitched. He knew his mother would be captivated. No woman could resist a sparkling gem, especially a flawless 30-plus carat pigeon's blood ruby. He obliged and bowed his head. His cheek was pinched by Lena. He let out a theatrical yelp. "Does it hurt?" she asked. "So it's real?" Seeing her son feign pain, Lena laughed with delight. She picked up the ruby, examined it, held it to the light. "God, such a big ruby. Where did this come from? How much did you spend? Mom, just tell me if you like it. As for where it came from, you'd better not ask. It wasn't bought with money. Just know that from now on, you'll have an endless supply of jewelry. William's evasiveness didn't faze her. She studied the stone, compared it to her fingernail, and declared excitedly, "This gem is probably at least 6 grams, over 30 carats. William, even though you won't say where it came from, I can't help but wonder. If this went to auction, it would fetch tens of millions." Tens of millions? William blinked in surprise. Mom, are you sure? Can a gem this small be worth that much? I'll have to learn gem identification someday, he thought ruefully. He had meant to pick a modest piece to avoid overwhelming his mother, but had somehow grabbed a top-grade one by chance. Haha, child, Mom isn't mistaken. Even if our family didn't have money before, remember where we live. There are plenty of jewelers near Oxford Street. Over the years, even if I couldn't afford things, I'd look at advertisements and chat with shop staff. That gives you a rough idea of prices. But whether this is real or fake, I can't say. Aside from the set your grandmother left me, I never bought jewelry myself. Her expression darkened. Sigh. Your grandmother only left me a set she and your grandfather used when they married. If she were here, she'd love this ruby as a necklace, but none of that matters now. For William, who kept 14 boxes of gems, a single ruby was as ordinary as a marble. Thinking of his grandmother's love, he smiled. Mom, why don't we make this ruby into a necklace and bury it with Grandma? No way! Are you trying to infuriate me? Lena twisted his ear in mock outrage. You're getting more and more wasteful. Bury a $10 million gem in a grave? She flung the ruby back on the table and looked at him pitifully. It's your fault, William. This gem feels eerie now. I don't want to see it. God, I'm pathetic. I finally have a gem worth showing off, and now I won't dare wear it. All right, Mom, stop putting on a show. You just want jewelry, William said, unable to hide his sigh. Okay, you win. I won't worry about having too much jewelry anymore. Lena's mood brightened the instant he left the room. She was certain he was hiding more. If you hadn't joked about burying that top-grade gem, I'd never have known you were hiding other good stuff, she muttered as William headed upstairs. Hiding in the basement for a few days must have been to move secret things through that passage. If it's jewelry, it's all mine. William was unfazed by his mother's scheming. He valued filial piety too much to resist. Now that she knew he was wealthy, there was no point hiding anything. He went to his room, opened the portal to the castle's treasure room, the door gone now, set a light orb above his head, selected a handful of pieces, returned, closed the portal, and went back downstairs. Lena waited only 10 minutes before he reappeared, nonchalant. William emptied his pockets onto the table. Diamonds, rubies, sapphires in dazzling variety and size. Lena's jaw dropped. Her son's calm made it feel as if he were giving away glass beads. She picked each piece up in turn until her vision swam. Diamonds, rubies, sapphires. William, where did you get so many? Did you find a treasure trove? William chuckled. Mom, don't ask for specifics. Just know we'll never lack jewelry again. These are for you, so you won't think that first ruby is too precious. Lena didn't pry. She knew William would reveal what he chose to, but surrounded by dozens of gems, she felt truly blessed. No more worry about jewelry, just as he'd promised. She lifted a diamond. This is at least 50 carats. These are over 30. That sapphire, over 120 carats, and even the smallest are 15 to 26. These would make perfect necklace stones. You're so good to me, she gushed. I must be the happiest mother in the world. I'll wear different jewelry every day for a month. Tina's fat mother, Mary, will be green with envy. Careful, Mom. If Aunt Mary gets jealous, she might cut you off. In Oxford, Mary's your only friend. What will you do if she stops going shopping with you? If Mary ignores me, Tina won't dare, Lena said, choosing a small gem. At worst, I'll tell that little Tina I'll give it to her when she comes of age. If she doesn't behave, I'll find an excuse not to. She won't dare go against me. William glanced at the sapphire in her hand. Mom, would you really give it to Tina? Lena patted his shoulder. Idiot, I was only saying it. Did you really believe me? If I'm not satisfied with her, I won't give it. I'll make some excuse. I wouldn't give such a beautiful sapphire to that little girl. It was true. Once a piece of jewelry went into a woman's possession, it rarely left. I want Tiffany designers to make these into jewelry, rings, necklaces, earrings, brooches, Lena declared. Why Tiffany? William asked, amusement in his voice. They're not the only good designers. We could look at proposals from several houses. No, I want Tiffany. The jewelry my grandfather gave your grandmother was designed by Tiffany. I trust them. That was fair enough. It was a tradition Lena wanted to honor. William didn't argue. They discussed designs and what to make of each stone, talking into the night. At 11 o'clock, Lena carefully put the gems away. I'm locking these in the safe in my room. Otherwise, I won't be able to sleep. Oh, Tina's 17th birthday is coming up. Think about what to get her. William considered a moment. How about a Patek Philippe? Lena made a face. William had been giving out the same kinds of gifts since he was a child. I can't help you there. Think about it yourself. It's late. Good night, darling. After saying good night, William sat alone for a while, trying to decide what to give Tina. Maybe a Ferrari. 17-year-olds can drive here. He was still mulling it over when his phone rang. Gareth Mallory's name flashed on the screen. Why would Gareth be calling now? Hello, Gareth. Good evening, William. Sorry to call so late. I hope I'm not disturbing you. It's 11 at night. What do you think? William answered irritably. A late call from Gareth meant trouble. If it weren't important, he wouldn't have picked up. Gareth hurried on. I saw in the papers that you bought 3,000 acres of ancestral land around the castle. Congratulations. The Devonshire family is being revived under your hand. But you didn't tell me you were buying land and Arabian horses. Are you planning to retire and hide away in Oxford? Paparazzi were truly omnipresent. In a few days, the newspapers already knew everything he'd been up to. I'm planning to retire and enjoy life, Gareth. If you're not calling about the reward from General Jet Froby, don't waste my time. I'm busy. William was no longer the man he'd been 6 months ago. With nothing to leverage him, he owed Gareth little. Still, Gareth persisted. Wait, don't hang up. I need your help. I knew this wouldn't be good, William muttered. I won't do anything too troublesome. I'll be very busy in a few days and won't have time for your affairs. I thought that might be fine, Gareth said. We need to resolve an internal problem, and some of us have suggestions. There will be benefits if you help, and this matter concerns your family's mission. Ha! Why didn't you say you had conditions earlier? William laughed, picturing Gareth talking about a family mission. What family mission could it be? Likely nothing more than internal affairs. He smirked. Could it be you've got internal problems? Gareth, who sounded weary on the line, answered helplessly. This time, finding you is related to internal matters. A few months ago, some highly sensitive intelligence was leaked. We suspect there's a mole inside the service. We've been searching for months with no leads, so I had no choice but to call you. As for General Frobisher's reward, we're still negotiating. I'll let you know when it's settled. You won't be shortchanged. Ha! Then wait until you finish deciding my compensation before you ask me. If I'm right, you haven't paid me a penny. I'm under no obligation to help you now. We're partners, Gareth. There was a pause on the other end. Gareth sighed. All right, in that case, I won't bother you. By the way, I'm telling you to come to London tomorrow morning for Bond's funeral. Goodbye. Bond died? William held the phone, stunned for a beat, then called back. Sorry, Gareth, I didn't catch that. Who died? You heard correctly, James Bond. For God's sake, of course I know it's Bond. I mean, which Bond? The former one or the current? It's Craig. Can a retired Bond still be called Bond? Gareth's voice dropped. Craig? Craig had only become a 00 agent a few months earlier. He only joined the 00 section in March. Gone in half a year. That's short-lived. William, who'd only been casually acquainted with Craig, asked bluntly, How did Craig die? 3 months ago, our team in Morocco was attacked. Bond was ordered to investigate and was accidentally shot by a colleague from the intelligence agency while apprehending a suspect. He fell from a bridge more than 30 meters high. We searched for 3 months but never found his body. We can only treat it as a death in the line of duty. Shot by a colleague? Could anything be more unlucky? So Craig was hit by his own people. Couldn't he find a reliable partner? Has the service fallen so far they're sending rookies on dangerous missions? Gareth's voice went ragged. He hadn't expected one of his elite agents to be taken down, not by the enemy, but by friendly fire. It was a disgrace under his command, and he'd worked hard to contain fallout. Irritated by William's teasing, he said sharply, "If you have time, come to Craig's funeral. We can talk terms in person. Goodbye." After he hung up, William curled his lip. Learning Craig had been wounded by a colleague and that the body had never been found fit a familiar pattern in his head. Falling 30 meters was usually fatal. Without a body, however, there was a strong chance Craig had survived. Even if he hadn't, being shot by his own would have shaken him. With Craig's intelligence and cunning, William thought it likely Craig would take the chance to fake his death and vanish. Few in the 00 section ever retired peacefully. Fine, he'd go the next day and see what was really going on. If things lined up with his memories, it would be an entertaining show. Early the next morning, William dressed in a black suit, black tie, and white shirt, had breakfast with his mother, then drove his Porsche 911 to London. It took over an hour to reach St. Wood Cathedral. He parked and walked toward the church. Only a handful of people were there. Bond's funeral wouldn't be public. The bulletin said Craig had been an orphan. His parents were killed when he was 7 or 8. So only a few of his superiors had come. At the church entrance, a priest handed him a death notice. James Bond, Lieutenant Commander of the Royal Navy, Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George, a loyal servant of England, died in the line of duty on May 25th. William read it and felt bored. It was merciless. Only 3 months after the incident, and with Craig's fate still unknown, they were already burying him. Were they trying to select a new Bond? He asked a nearby agent about the details. The story matched what Gareth had said. William allowed himself a small smile. He was about 70% sure Craig was alive and hiding somewhere, taking his retirement early. Perhaps Craig was right now lounging in some remote place with a pretty woman. Now that he had a read on what might happen next, William privately began calculating how to profit from the fallout. Inside the church, he found M talking with Gareth. Gareth nodded and smiled at William. M looked surprised and visibly displeased to see him. Everyone knew she disliked William, but as the host, she forced a polite smile and offered her hand. "Thank you for coming, William." Craig would have been very pleased. "My condolences," William replied. Maybe Craig didn't die. He might have faked it and slipped away to enjoy retirement. If I were shot by my own people and didn't die, I'd come back and settle scores. M's expression tightened. The forced smile looked strained to him as she shook his hand. "Perhaps. I hope you're right." She excused herself and moved off. William watched her go. There weren't really any other guests for her to greet. She'd simply wanted to be seen, dutifully busy. As she walked away, she muttered to her assistant, Bill Tanner, "God, the Devonshires are insufferable. William is as obnoxious as his grandfather Henry. He jumps at any chance to insult people. To think he'd talk about Craig like that. Disgusting. I wish I could be rid of him." Bill Tanner glared in William's direction, disapproving of his levity. At 10, the funeral began. William watched the empty coffin, no body inside, being lowered into the grave and listened to the priest's eulogy. It was ridiculous. He wondered at the faces the mourners would wear when, if Craig returned, the truth came out. After the ceremony, Gareth wouldn't let William leave. He dragged him back to his office, intent on persuading him. If William hadn't wanted to hear what Gareth could offer, not even Gareth plus his bodyguard and driver could have kept him. Once inside the office, Gareth poured 2 glasses of scotch and sat across from William, who was clearly impatient. Gareth didn't know where to begin. William had earned a fortune and built a reputation in the last 6 months. He had contacts at the highest levels now. Without leverage, Gareth wasn't sure how to approach him. After a few awkward moments, Gareth tried the emotional angle. "For my sake, help me this once. Please, help me block what's coming. This is messy. I don't even know who to trust." William shook his head. "Sorry, Gareth. Finding a mole inside the service is messy and dangerous. Whoever's capable of getting inside you lot is not someone I want to anger. Helping you would make me a target of whoever's behind them. I'm not in the business of creating enemies for the government's internal fights." Gareth's pleading didn't sway the man who cared about money above all else. If William wanted him to undertake something risky, he expected a clear benefit. Otherwise, he might as well stay in Oxford and sort the Templar treasure quietly at home. He had gold and jewels to secure, many artifacts waiting to be moved back through the teleportation gate. That was where his head was. "I don't have time," William said finally. "Maybe you should look for him in remote parts of Morocco. I don't believe he's dead. He's probably hiding and licking his wounds." Gareth rolled his eyes. "Do you think we haven't looked? We haven't found a body. But even if we find him, what then? Being shot by M's assistant and falling from that bridge isn't a trivial thing. Even if he survives, he'd be broken. And we don't know whether he'd come back wanting revenge. This funeral isn't just for him. It's to calm people who fear he might lose control and strike back." William snorted. "If that were me, I'd want revenge too." Gareth searched for another tack. "Do you think we don't have capable agents? It's not a lack of talent. The problem is trust. After the Montenegro incident, Craig captured a man named White. While Craig was interrogating White in a safe house, M's personal assistant shot White, which drew Craig away. Although that assistant was killed by Bond in the skirmish, White wasn't fatally wounded and escaped. This means M's assistant, after nearly 20 years inside MI6, could have been an enemy agent. Who can I trust? I don't even dare trust M any longer. A lot of people on the Security Council are talking about her stepping down." William was unmoved by patriotism. "Gareth, I don't care about the W team. I don't even have a full team of my own. What could I do in an institution I don't work in? Besides, I don't know the ins and outs of running agents. If you want practical help, move some veterans over from other departments. Or, look, I can make a donation. A few £100,000 won't hurt me." Gareth wanted to curse. He recalled the times he had helped William, blocking inquiries, smoothing over diplomatic disasters, and the scale of that help meant this was no small request. He pulled open a desk drawer, took out a folder, and slid it across the desk. William flipped through it, and his face flushed when he saw what it contained. A detailed list of the problems Gareth had managed or suppressed for him. "You understand now," Gareth said. "I covered all of this for you. You wouldn't be living comfortably in Oxford otherwise. I've done a lot. Now it's time you paid me back." William considered the documents for a few minutes. "Aren't most of these things you should be handling? Don't forget, in Miami I had authorization. The Montenegro incident was self-defense. Facing dozens of AK-wielding kidnappers, I had unlimited right to defend myself. I saved hundreds of guests and several security staff. Montenegro itself didn't pursue the matter. Why should the service be looking for me?" Gareth tried another example. "What about Paris?" William laughed. "Gareth, don't pretend the Security Council has total control. You can't completely block people who want to look into me. If they had evidence, they'd have acted. If they don't, what are they going to do? Turn it over to the Americans. I have authorization from the Americans to assist them against armed criminals. If they go public, the Americans might even give me a medal." He allowed himself a smug curl of the lip. Time had passed, and no one had stirred, so whatever loose ends existed must have been taken care of, just as William had planned when he nudged Brian into politics and kept Sam and a handful of retired agents close. Those connections made problems easier to smooth over when they arose.